Ayin Beis, Volume 1, and we're literally by the last chapter in the first section of Ayin Beis. This is Pasha Vayigash, Yalo Yachal Yosef, discourse number 31. After this, the Rabbi Rashab will be taking a break for 6 months,
like I should,
and going to Shavuos, till Shavuos Ayin Gimel. So we're on page Reish Mem Gimel, 243, chapter 126, and literally going back to the beginning of the Hemshech. So we're talking here 126 chapters. It's being summed up. So we've been going over it very slowly and meticulously because he's bringing it all together. And what is he bringing together? Essentially, in summation, in a broad summation, it's really the story of structure meeting beyond structure, or the finite meeting the infinite, or in the words of Chassidus, Esesphiris meeting Keser. So it's all synonymous, what I just said. Esesphiris are the building blocks of existence. Keser is a desire for those building blocks, which means one is Eir HaGvul, which manifests in Kelim HaGvul, and the other is Eir HaBli Gvul. In English, one is immanent energy that manifests in identity and personality, time, space, and the structure of existence. And when I say existence, I don't mean necessarily physical existence, I mean all of existence, spiritual as well. Anything that is structure. Keser is Eir HaBli Gvul, which means transcendent energy, which is the domain of desire, ratzon, as opposed to keches. I'll soon get to that in a moment. And then there's, of course, the source itself that wills it all and wants it all, beyond even the word will, that puts it all in place. But for us to be able to have a relationship, for it to work in a way that makes some type of semblance, some sense to a structure like ours, we need all these steps. So, generally speaking, it's 3 steps. Once we're talking outside of Atzmos, we're talking outside of the source itself. One is the containers. Let's start from the bottom up. The containers of existence. Then there's the energy that fits into those containers. This was the discussion for the first, I would say, 45 chapters of Ayin Beis. He began with the question of Keser. What is Keser? Because B'shah Shekdimu, the Maim the Hemshech begins B'shah Shekdimu Yisrael Nasel Nishma Kishur Lehem, the angel is bound for them crowns, and he goes to explain what these crowns are. Crown in Ruchnius is Ratzon. Ratzon is the first interface. For anything to have a relationship with anything else, it needs to desire. There's no desire, there's nothing. So the first step, so-called out of the source, is that there's some manifest desire. Ratzon. But to understand Ratzon, he says, to understand Ratzon, we have to understand what Ratzon wants. So he goes to the faculties. The faculties, our human faculties, become an example for the structure of existence. So this is a very important point that is a recurrent theme. The human being is created as a macrocosm of the entire cosmic structure. So in a sense, when you look at how we function as human beings, we're created b'tselem Elokim. It's in divine image. What does this image look like? Look at a human being, you can understand the image. But you have to obviously get rid of the dysfunctional side and anything that's distortion. We're talking about the human as we are born, meaning in our purest form. Atzilus is the purest form of a human being. Adam Elyon, it's called. In other words, if Elikus, it says, En le guf, en le musaguf, he has no body and no shape and form, where does he manifest? The first place in a structure is called Atzilus. So Atzilus is a name, basically just a name for where the divine manifests into a structure. So it's a divine structure.
And Ak is more so, babe.
I'm not here to fill in your dots. I'm going to say it the way I say it. Okay. So because it gets confusing, you start bringing other things in now. Ak is a whole not related to what we're discussing right now. Atzilus becomes a very central component because it's a real place where the two meet. Because after lower than Atzilus would become the worlds where the human image is beginning to become defiled, you can say, hidden, concealed. Higher than Atzilus is where the image is not yet manifest. It's too amorphous, it's too vague, it's still more energy, less container, etc., etc. Or there's an imbalance between energy and container. So now, so we have here is the containers. Containers is the definition and the parameters of the structure. Remember, the structure can be broken into 10 spheres, which is Chochmah through Malchus. Each has a Keli, and then there's an Eir. But the Eir is commensurate to the container. So if you look at the human being, you say the same thing. We have faculties, we have limbs, and organs that are on their own empty containers. When the life force enters into them, a human being comes alive, not just in general alive, but every organ is serving its function, and it's a very unique function. It's not the function of another organ. A heart is not a mind. This is a critical component because it's very easy to get lost in the quantum and in the undefined state and forget that a human being would not function if there was only quantum. There has to be eyes and ears, there has to be a mind and a heart. And if one organ is functioning, another organ is not functioning, unfortunately you can have death. You can have destruction. So the key thing is, and this is where the challenge becomes, because on one hand, it's absolute structure. A heart should never be a mind, an air pipe is never a wind pipe is never a food pipe. At the same time, it's connecting to something that's beyond structure, which is of course the presenting dilemma, the big dilemma. So you have air. Air is in each container has its energy. But then you have, now we move to Keser. Keser is an air that is, we call it the makif. It surrounds the whole thing. Where is it in the human Tzelem Elokim? In the microcosm, it's our desire. So we too have containers, we have energy within the containers, and we have a desire. Ratzon would be when we want something. So will does not really manifest in any container. It affects the body, it affects all of us, but it affects it from a distance. So the reason we were created this way was to give us a taste of how God created existence. Because the goal of all this is to climb from the container to the energy to the Ratzon all the way beyond. Okay? So that's these three levels are critical in the whole discussion here. So the first 45 chapters really focus on Eir and Keli, primarily how the Eir and Keli meet, then how he climbs and shows the source. As far back as he can trace the source of Eris and Kelim is Esser Spheres Sagnuzas. It's called the level of the 10 hidden spheres, and explains at length 10 hidden spheres and how God willed and desired to have 10 hidden spheres. So before the Tzimtzum, this is the root of so-called Mamala Kalam, or we're calling it now finite energy, that manifests in finite Kelim, is rooted in Esser Spheres Sagnuzas. This is where God desires, like the artist that chose to make a piece of art that's defined so and not like that. It's 10 and not 11, 10 and not 9. The root of Seviv Kalam, where's the root of, you get Keser, where's the root of all the desires? The Keser of Atzilus and Keser of Bria, that goes to the air that's higher than the 10 hidden spheres. That's called the Eir HaBligvul. That would be where the artist has infinite possibilities. It's Spheres Einketz. From that level, there can be infinite amount of spheres, and they're completely not defined in any form or fashion. And that's where Shir Asmi B'Keir, that's where he envisioned and allocated and estimated that I'm going to take from my Bligvul, I'm going to, from that, create, shape and form one set of 10 spheres. So that's the root of all the Keser. Now, beyond that is what he's calling now Etzem Ha'er. Etzem Ha'er is simply not Atzmus, but it's not yet any manifestation. You can't even call it spheres. You can't even call it any form of brightness. All you can say it's the conceptual idea of expression, divine expression. It's like a field. Think of it as a field of energy that doesn't yet have any shape and form, obviously, and within that will become an Eir HaBligvul, so to speak. It's called Spashtus Ha'er, will be a manifestation of that energy. And that will then in turn become, will desire existence and the structure of the 10 spheres. Now, of course, there are more levels.
Well, is also coming from that.
Everything comes from one place, but it's different things that come. Now, just for the record, in case you wonder, so where did Kelim come from? I defined the source of the Eir HaGvul in the 10 hidden spheres. So I defined the source of the Eir HaBligvul, which is beyond the 10 hidden spheres. Where did the Kelim come from? Another word for Kelim are Ishias, letters, because letters like containers are empty until some idea, they express some idea. So that's rooted in, obviously, in the Keyach HaGvul of Ein Sof. Not Eir HaGvul, Keyach HaGvul. Keyach HaGvul is to be distinguished. Keyach HaGvul means that just like Atzmus has the power to express himself, he has also the power to withhold. And that's where the containers come from, from the power of withholding, that is an individual, separate track. So the Eir HaGvul, even though it sounds like Koyach HaGvul, is still an Eir. And the Eir HaGvul, it's like the artist can do 1,000 possibilities or infinite possibilities, and he chose 10. Those 10 are still a force of energy. They're not parameters themselves. That doesn't create a canvas. That doesn't create paint. That doesn't create instruments. That tells you, I want to have a defined structure. So I have like the energy of Chacham, the energy of Bina. But when you want to really have it tangible, you need to have something that gives it some container. That comes from a different place. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't travel through Eir HaBlikvul. Eir carries everything. But now it's carrying a message. It's basically carrying a code that is not its own. Eir can carry a Eir code, an energy code, but it cannot carry a container. It can carry a container code as well, but it doesn't create a container code. Because energy, by definition, is energy. Electricity will never create a light bulb. You need someone else to create the light bulb. I mean, using a human being, human terms. Think of it in neshama and guf. The neshama does not create the body. The proof is that after death, after meves from shana, the body doesn't disappear when the soul disappears. So clearly, the body has its own so-called source. But without the soul, the body would never have developed. You have no soul, then what would happen would be an egg, unfertilized, would just be expelled, and it would be no life. But so essentially, the body's substance emerges through the energy, but it's not rooted in the energy. This is what we call misavas ha'er nasa keli. From the thickness of the energy comes the keli, but it's not rooted in the energy. It's rooted in the will of God to want to have an existence. So if you're just like sunlight, cannot create a plant. It can nurture a plant. It could even allow it to reveal it, but it's not. It's like we say when we say Torah, for example, reveals to us the power of tshuva. But tshuva is higher than Torah. But Torah reveals everything, because Eir reveals everything. Eir reveals even things that it itself does not contain on its own. So Eir is basically an agent of the divine source, like it says, Gilia Etzem, and whatever the Etzem wants it to carry, it carries. That's why he says in the Keser, okay, this is one of the last things the Alter Rebbe wrote before he passed away 200 years ago, next week, was Siman Chof in the Keser. It says he wrote it, Kfar Piyana, Korav L'Stalkusei. That's what it says. And it's actually one of the biggest Chidushim of the Alter Rebbe's Chassidus is in that Siman Chof. So you have to wonder till then how they understood Chassidus. But that chapter 20 in Keser is one of the most fundamental. And he speaks about this process, how the energy comes from the source, but the energy carries the power of creation, carries it. But think of it like a paintbrush of the artist. The paintbrush doesn't create the art, but it's the one that carries the flow of the art through the paintbrush, which is really what spheres do. So going back to spheres, so after chapter 45, where he covers mostly immanent energy, he moves back to transcendent energy, Keser, starts discussing the difference between Ratzon and Keiches. It's a big discussion, the difference between how desire affects us, how the faculties affect us. Many differences. And there he starts getting into a deeper discussion of, okay, so where do the two meet? Now that we've established that there are faculties and there's a structure, in Eir HaGvul, in Kelim that are Gvul, we have now a finite structure. How does that meet Ratzon, basically? Or in our case, in human beings, it would be how it meets our desire. But in the spiritual, in the Elamaila above, it's how does it meet the Eir HaBlikvul? So here becomes a discussion of how Ratzon begins to impact the faculties. Does it impact it? Does it impact it in return? Does Ratzon have in it any shape and form of the Gvul? Or is it completely detached? And basically he establishes that there's two levels. And now he's summing it up where we are now. There's one level where his Ratzon is simply just expressing what the soul wants. But since the soul wants different things, there's a level of Ratzon we call Hispashtus, where Ratzon begins to interact with the faculties. So though it never becomes a faculty, but it does have a different impact on different faculties in different ways. So in some way Ratzon too assumes and relates to the distinction between one world and the next. So I gave the example, for example, if you say there's a chief of staff who represents the king, and his role is just to tell you what the king wants. He says, you go. He tells the head of the department of digging wells, you go guys dig wells, you guys go bring the food, you guys go hunt, you guys go battle, you guys whatever. Write the laws. Then each department head has to get involved in what his department is doing. So the actual workers are the faculties. But there is a Ratzon that is somewhat immersed or somewhat related to the thing that he's desiring. So Ratzon has, in other words, this type of paradoxical side to it. On one hand, it's detached and removed from the specifics that the immanent energy is involved in. On the other hand, it has some relationship with it. So the way the Rebbe Rashab explains it is that there's etzem ha'er, there's ispashtus ha'er. There's a state of energy where energy is basically, all it is revealing the source. And there, everything is equal. Whether the desire tells you to walk, or the desire tells you to run, or the desire tells you to use your mind, from that perspective, the energy is an equalizer. But then you find, like where we're learning now, you find that sometimes a desire, you can find a reason for it. The desire is not just beyond reason. You could explain mitzvahs, for example. And yet the mitzvah retains its Ratzon quality. Why do you do a mitzvah? Because God said so. Even if God gave us a reason for it, and the Torah explains the reason, it still retains an element that's beyond reason. And even while you're doing it, then that's why it's not enough just to have the reason, you have to actually do it. You could say, I know the reason, that's enough. No. It's not enough to know the secret, you have to actually do it. And when you're doing it, it's not enough just to do it with the kavanah for the reason, you have to do it with kabbalah sel because of the desire. So he explains how Torah and mitzvahs really is where these two meet. A mitzvah expresses a desire from above. Torah explains the reason for it. And they both work together, but something always remains that's a little above. So you have the Ratzon as it manifests in reason. You have the Ratzon that's beyond reason, but there's a higher reason that we don't relate to. And then there's the Ratzon as it's etzem ha'er. All it is God's expression. And it has beyond a world of reason altogether. You don't even use word reason. Hidden reason, not hidden reason. So these three levels is where we're at right now. And just to go back to the structure, after 45 chapters of immanent energy, he goes another 10 chapters, he starts talking immanent and transcendent. And goes back and forth, and then starts the discussion, are there spheres in the transcendent energy? Which really means, is there gvul in the bli gvul? Or how can you say, because the Eitz Chaim and the Kabbalah says clearly that there are spheres not just in Yosher and Pnimi, but also in Igulim, in Makif. How could you say there are spheres in Makif? So first he establishes that it's not really spheres in Makif, it's more how Makif interacts. It's based on what Makif is interacting with, so it's based on that. But then he goes further and says, but you see clearly it says there are spheres in Makif. It's not just based on its interaction. And that begins a long discussion, which began in chapter 83, and leads us all the way to where we are now. Close the front door. The front door is open.
Don't slam it though.
You need to come several weeks to master that art. That's where gvul meets bli gvul. A little open, a little closed. So in that sense, from 83 till here, he goes into long discussion and starts explaining that spheres have three meanings. Ultimately 4 meanings. One is from the word number. Second is from the word sipur, story. Third is from the word sapir, brightness, like a bright stone, transparent or translucent stone. And then later at the end he explains there's also a fourth interpretation. It's called sif sefer, like the cloth, like a plain, bright, shapeless parchment. Move your hand away from the camera. Okay. Fine. So with that said,
What was the last one? The class itself?
yes, safer from the word safer. I'm concerned that the wires have been affected and the sound isn't.
Sound's not working at all?
I know something's wrong. Just do me a favor, when you're sitting there, watch by wires there, so make sure the wires are not disconnected.
Maybe come over here, we'll move it. Come over here.
Don't pay no attention when he says this is doing dirty.
He's not touching the wire. He's not touching the wire.
No, but look at all the connections on there.
Push it back to normal? Push them together.
Okay, maybe it's fine. Good. Don't sit there. Come to the table. Why are you running away?
You're making a television show. I don't want to, have to edit it too much.
It's a thing called reality TV. We need it to be a little unpredictable.
Okay.
You need some quantum there.
Yeah. So I was saying, the fourth interpretation is Sefer Klaf, which essentially is just an example for just think of it a white field of energy upon which the letters are drawn out from. Because the ink on the parchment, as he said, every letter has to be surrounded by parchment, and then in the letters themselves you find parchment. So you have here all the three levels in the parchment too. You have the white parchment that's just plain. You have the makif that's around the letters, and then you have the makif inside the level.
You have the white parchment that's
right, exactly, infinite possibilities, and then you have.
How do you break inside?
So you have the surrounding. Once you write the letters, you have the surrounding parchment around it, and then you have the part of the parchment that is within each letter, and then there's of course the letters themselves. So the letters are like the containers. The section that's literally shapes the letter, the whiteness around the letter, and the whiteness within the letter is like the hagvul, and there's the whiteness that's around each letter or around all of them. That's the hagvul. And then, of course, there's the parchment as it is beyond everything, before it had anything, so to speak. But regardless, all these descriptions, and then, of course, you talked about engraved letters and in written letters, it just comes down to a process of how the spheres go from a state of brightness to a state of a story, to a brightness and a plain parchment, to a story, to number. So the same spheres that we were talking about before have in it, not only do they have the number part, but they also lead you into its deeper dimension. This is already where the letters or the containers are really beginning to also reflect the energy. So it's not just two worlds, there's containers and energy. The containers themselves can be transparent, like he explained, inner containers. This is what Yaakov accomplished, where the containers become transparent channels for the energy. And together with the energy tell a story that's even beyond. They tell the story of Keser, of habligvul. And then comes the highest level of spheres, which is transparency itself, meaning basically brightness, just a state of transparent state, but not a container that's transparent, because a container that's transparent is like a glass, like let's say a window pane. It's completely clear, but it's still a pane. Then you have energy itself is a state of brightness, and that's what he says is ultimately how you can say there's spheres even in Bligvul. Because the element of Gilui, that's what Bligvul has also. So Gilui, compared to the Etzem, in a way, it's not a container, he calls it a garment. But it's already an expression because it's outside of the core. But compared to lower levels, it's pure energy. So what the Chiddush here is that even pure energy, as pure as it is still compared to the Etzem and Levush, Hoid v'Hadar Levashta. And there's two levels in it, as we just discussed. One is Hoid, it's just a pure form of energy, without any expression or revelation at all. That's Atik. But it's already outside of the source. Then you have Hispashta Sa'ir, that's Arich, Hadar. Now the majesty of the king is being expressed in some way, in details, but you don't yet have 10 spheres. And then comes the level where, in the Ratzon of Arich itself, it begins to want to have 10 spheres. So in the Eir HaBligvul now you have... So basically the Eir HaBligvul really divides into two. Etzem Eir HaBligvul and Hispashtas Eir HaBligvul. Etzem Eir HaBligvul you can't even really talk about, because it's just a state of Eir, as opposed to Etzem, as opposed to a core. Hispashtas Eir is where we can begin to talk. And now what he called this was Keser Keser is Atik. That's the level of Hoy, that's just Etzem Eir. Then you have the Arich, you have Chochmah and Arich, Chochmah Stima. That is a hidden reason, which he cannot relate to, but there's a reason. And you say, Shtoik, be silent. That's how it arose in my will. God has a reason. It's just that we cannot comprehend that reason. So it's already manifest in the world of Chochmah, but it's called Chochmah Stima. So you have a sphere. It's a sphere, but it's a hidden sphere, so to speak. And think of it like the state of unconscious. The unconscious, Atik, is beyond unconscious. You can't call it unconscious. You can't call it the source of the spheres. So all you can say there is that it's Eir, Etzem Eir. Now, Chachmas, you could already say that there's more than just Etzemah. There's also there's a state of brightness, and that brightness takes on the shape of a hidden reason. Then comes the Midas and Malchus of Arich, where he says that already is going to become Chacham of Atzilus. So, an outer dimension of the desire, the Eir HaBligvul has in it already a dimension. He says, so you can't call spheres, he says, in that level itself, but Al Shem, because it is going to be a desire that is going to manifest in a reason. And he gives the example. When you have a mitzvah that is higher than reason, but it manifests in a reason, reason in the Torah gives us a reason for a mitzvah. There you have where Ratzon meets Seichel, so to speak, where Gvul meets Bligvul. Bligvul meets Gvul. And in the higher place, that's where the infinite spheres meets the 10 hidden spheres. In the levels we're talking is where Keser, the lower level of Keser, meets Chochma Gluya. Basically, it's where, think of it, the first place that happens in us is when an idea falls into your head. Where did it come from? It came from a level of beyond Gvul, beyond structure, but it's manifest in a reason. So it is a reason for the mitzvah, but the mitzvah itself always remains beyond it. Those are the three levels that he said now, that he discussed. So basically this brings together everything we've been learning from the beginning of the Hemshech. And now, chapter Kuf Chavov is the so-called climax of this section, where the crescendo, where it all comes together. It's clear to everyone? Any questions? No questions? Okay.
The last part you mentioned, what was it about mitzvahs?
Mitzvah and Torah.
Yeah.
Torah is, like he says, Pirush Shabir of time. Torah will give you time mitzvahs, will give you the reason for a mitzvah. But even when there's a reason, it's not because of the reason that's why there's the mitzvah. It's not because of the reason we do the mitzvah. So you have there an element where Ratzon and Seichel come together. So it retains, it's still Ratzon, but it's manifest in Seichel. So you have like a sense, it's a perfect example where, in mitzvahs and the time mitzvahs, right.
Is that a unique to mitzvahs? My love mitzvahs over Torah itself, because in mitzvahs you have both, and in Torah you only have one?
Well, so no, the Torah is the one that gives the tam. The mitzvah doesn't have the tam. Mitzvah is just pure Ratzon. Mitzvah is the desire. God says, I want you to put on tefillin, I want you to keep Shabbos. Torah gives you the reason for it.
Right.
So Torah speaks about the reason. The mitzvah is just doing it. Torah and mitzvah together is where it combines. Torah reveals to us also what the mitzvahs are. I mean, look, Torah has other things, other qualities too. In this context, the learning of Torah, when you learn about a mitzvah, and you learn the reasons, you learn, for example, you sit in a sukkah. Why? The man yedu, we should always know, because we sat in sukkahs, b'sukkahs yishafti, Hashem sat us in sukkahs. The mitzvah is a rotz, God desires it. It has a reason, because we once sat there. So the reason is definitely a true reason. It's a reason for the mitzvah, but it's not the fundamental root of the mitzvah. The mitzvah is rooted before we ever sat in sukkahs. God wanted us to have a sukkah. Sukkah is rooted in the deepest levels of atzmos. He wanted a sukkah. It wasn't a circumstantial thing, because you happen to sit in a sukkah, that's where you're going to sit in a sukkah. So you have in it both an element. It's like, think of it this way: there are things we have desires for, where you can explain the reason for it, even though it may not be rooted in a reason. Then there are desires we have that have no reasons at all. They're complete. I'm not necessarily talking something that's stupidity. It's just a person wants something that cannot be explained. But the point is that Ratzon has an element. There's an element of where reason and Ratzon interact with each other. That's what it comes down to. Think of it this way: God desired a world like ours, right? Mm-hmm. In the Sava, He desired a world, a home in these lowest of worlds. At the same time, what's the reason for that? We don't have a reason. It's fundamentally God's will. That's what He wants. Yet, that itself has evolved and has caused us to have reasons. There are reasons, revealing God's powers. There's that He wants someone to recognize, be recognized. But these are reasons that follow once you have the desire. At the root of it, the heart and soul of it is a desire. Is a bligvul thing. In other words, bligvul is not, the bottom line is not an exclusive domain. Bligvul could be brought into gvul by explaining the reasons for that ratzon. So it's not just akshanis, it's not just God's stubborn, He wants a world and that's it. He created a world, but He created a world that has logical basis.
But what I'm trying to say is that in mitzvahs...
No, you could have, if bligvul never met gvul, right, we would never be able to have science. We would never be able to predict anything. All you'd have is this desire that He wants a world, but a world that doesn't run by any logic. Imagine a world no logic at all. But even when there's logic in the world, never think that it's a logic that shapes the world. It's a logic that was desired. God wanted logic. That's why there's logic. So you have here, right there, both sides of the picture.
But what I'm trying to say is that in mitzvahs, how we say hamaisu ikr, and in ikr of a mitzvah is it's action. In a mitzvah, in order to do a mitzvah, you have to know the Torah behind it. In order to know how to do a mitzvah, you have to already...
Correct.
A mitzvah depends on Torah. Meaning that to do a mitzvah properly, you have to know Torah. So mitzvah would have both the kelim and the or of Torah, it would seem. Whereas in Torah, if you just study Torah, aren't you missing the kelim? Doesn't this show?
Well, you could say this is just like you said.
Always have both of them, whereas the Torah might just have.
You could say the other way around. When you read the Torah has a part of learning and has a part of doing. Well, why do you decide? You chose to frame it that way. I could frame it the other way around.
How the Torah?
You read Torah. There's a part of Torah that's learning. There's a part of Torah that says do.
But if you don't do it. You didn't
so the mitzvah is the doing is the ratzon, and the learning is the Torah. That's the two different domains. The mitzvah doesn't have two things. All mitzvah is doing.
I'm trying to say mitzvah has both.
No, so Torah also has both.
But how does the Torah have the
how does mitzvah have? Mitzvah is only doing.
Mitzvah has both aspects.
No, mitzvah means to do.
Which is Chacham, we said.
No. The reason is the reason is Torah, and the doing is mitzvah. You decided you framed your own words here.
No, I'm just saying that.
I just told you mitzvah means doing and reason means Torah.
Right.
That's my definition. Right. So mitzvah only has the doing part and Torah only has the reason part.
In order to do the mitzvah, you have to know.
You need to know Torah. So that's what I'm saying. In order to do the mitzvah, you need to read the Torah. No.
Am I making my question clear?
No, not to me.
It seems that...
No, you're coming with a pre-assumption here from somewhere else. I just told you, mitzvah means doing and Torah means reasons. So each one doesn't have what the other one has. You've decided that mitzvah means reason and doing. And I'm telling you, I could say Torah means reason and doing.
So if you knew the reasons behind doing a mitzvah...
That's Torah.
Okay. So you know the reasons behind sitting in a sukkah. So you're sitting in a sukkah, so you have the keli of the sukkah. The actual mitzvah.
That's the mitzvah.
And you have the reasoning behind it, which is the Torah.
Right.
So you learn it, so you know it. So you know the kavanas of the relationship of sukkah.
Yeah.
So you have both.
For example, you can tell your child, you can tell your child sit in the sukkah and he has no idea that it says in the Torah. He has no idea for the reason. So all he has is the mitzvah. And so there you go. That's a perfect example. Doing without knowing.
I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that if
I said
do it. Okay, but what I'm trying to say is that a person is doing it.
They only have the doing. They don't have any.
He knows the Torah behind it, so he has both aspects. Right?
Then he has to mitzvah and Torah.
If he's just learning about Leishei B'Sukkah in the Torah and doesn't,
we're going in circles here. A doing is a mitzvah and knowing is Torah. If he only does and doesn't know, he has mitzvah without Torah. If he knows and doesn't do, he has Torah without mitzvah. Is there any problem with that?
Are you asking about the study the halacha to know how to do the mitzvah?
That's the Torah. That's Torah. That's what Torah.
That's not the reason. That's just the instruction.
What's the difference? Fine.
Mitzvah doesn't. It seems to me.
No, mitzvah is doing. It has limitation. I just told you can tell your child to do a mitzvah, and they don't have Torah, only mitzvah.
Right, but if you're doing the mitzvah of Leishei and you know the Torah behind it, so you have both aspects.
And if you know the Torah and you do the mitzvah, you also have both aspects.
If you know the Torah but you don't do the mitzvah.
But if you do the mitzvah and don't know the Torah, you don't have the Torah.
What about
I don't know. Why are we going here the same thing again and again?
Because, one second, isn't there...
Okay, enough.
One question.
4 times we said the same thing. So either you're not hearing me or no one's hearing you.
If a person sits in the mitzvah, if he puts on tefillin and doesn't have any kavanah, does not know the reasons, does he get a mitzvah?
Yeah.
Yes. So there's a ban. So the mitzvah...
But he doesn't get Torah. And if a person learns Torah and doesn't do the mitzvah, he also gets a mitzvah. By the way, he learned Torah. If you want to really put it that way.
What was that last point? I was
More than that, no, he may even know.
Yeah.
No.
Just one more thing. What's the difference between Keser and Keser Sheba Keser? You mentioned 2 things. What was the function of Keser Sheba Keser?
It's the Etzem Ha'er. Just revealing the source.
We're saying Keser Sheba Keser is Etzem Ratzo. Ratzon is already a lower darker or in so.
Let me answer his question before your question. Since he asked something. Yeah? Do you mind?
No.
Okay. I just told you, Etzem Ha'er is the Gili of Etzem. It's basically just the revelation of the Etzem. Do you understand what that means? Okay, so then I already explained that now for the last time. But that's what it is.
Okay.
So Keser is Etzem Ratzo. Ratzon is
No one said it's etzema ratzon. I never heard that word. That's your. It doesn't say such a thing.
so it's beyond. But we're talking.
He says it's actually higher than ratzon. It's oyer, where it doesn't yet have ratzon.
So it's higher even than.
Than arich, yeah.
So we don't.
I mean, if you in specific words here, if you look on page Reish Mem Aleph,
Okay.
he, in the beginning of the chapter, so he says, we learned Ayin in his bar el perek nun vav, 7 lines.
Yeah. Got it.
The era ensof liyesed b'chinas gili min ha'etzem eine by shum shem klal rak kamosh ba b'chinas makul elmas how you nikra b'shem ratzon. Only when it comes as a makul elmas, that's when it's called ratzon. But before that, you can't give it any name, even ratzon.
Right.
There you go.
In
So you can't call it a name. It's just a level. Yeah.
You're saying Chachma Keser is still
Arich.
Ratzon.
Is ratzon is the Chachma Keser is the Chachma Stima within the ratzon.
So where do we find Ratzon? Plain Ratzon, not Keser.
You could say it's a Keser of Arich. It doesn't have to be Keser of Keser. I mean, why? I mean, you need to find exactly where it is.
The word Keser doesn't imply that it's the next.
We're not really mathematics here. Yeah, but at the same time, he says it's also before you have the name Ratzon. So, how are you going to deal with that? It's just words. This is just words.
I understand.
All these things we're talking about words. It's just words to explain a level.
I read this line also. And this line led me to believe that Ratzon entirely, all levels of Ratzon, even pure.
But you see, we just read a line. How do you reconcile that?
Even pure Ratzon.
Pure oyer.
Pure Ratzon, that has no tam at all, is still lower than Ayin Sof.
Fine.
And that the horror, if we're going to define Chachma Keser is being a tam nema. Keser should be Keser. It should be Ratzon in its purest state, and that would be still lower than Ayin Sof. That's what drew me to that conclusion.
You could probably break it in levels, but here he's not. Here he's speaking Keser B'Keser, he's speaking like it's Atik. He's using the same words like he uses Atik. If you could break it further, I'm sure you can. But right here he's not. He keeps it to 3 levels. You asked me if there's a 4th level. I'm sure there is. I told you there are levels that are not spelled out here. Here he sticks to 3 general levels. One is Etzema Er, Hoid, Hadar, and then the Er Hagvul, which is the spheres.
Yeah.
That's what he says here. If you want to say that between the level of Hadar and Hoid is another level, maybe. There probably are, as I said. But that's not what he discusses here. So here, practical purposes, you have Er that's before the word Ratzon. There's where Ratzon takes shape. That's an Arich. This Chochmah Sheba Arich he wants to bring out is that there's a level of spheres in Ratzon. That's what's going on here. And he says, Yesh Leimer, She'ena Kavana She'yesh Spheres Mamish, in Meir Makif, it's only because it's ain't safe in Bligvul. The only thing is because the scholars is Pashas Basfiris Hashem is because Ratzon is impacting,
Right.
and Ratzon comes into a reason. Since it comes into a conscious reason, a Tam Goli, which is Chachma Gluya, there's also a Tam Kamus, which is a hidden reason. So Chachma Stima is not Ratzon. Chachma Stima is the Chachma within Ratzon, so to speak. You're attributing the idea of Chachma to Ratzon, basically. That's what it is.
I understand you can't do that.
Which goes well. Ken gam b'chinas harotzon and b'chinas ha'erein sof hamislavish ba'avon nikra midas masha mislavish b'chinas chumad darach and b'chinas gili la'atzme adayin. So okay, so good.
It's not seen before it expressed itself. Basically, that's what it is. It's not seen before it expressed itself.
Like he expresses it to himself, not to another.
Or any expression, but it's not seen before it expressed itself.
Yeah, but there is. But he says, but there is a hidden reason for it. Tam Kamus. There is he has a.
He's talking about Keser Shebekasa.
Keser B'Keser, he says clearly. Amram etzem b'chinas haKeser, zeh b'chinas Keser Shebekasa, zeh b'chinas harotzon hanelam v'haposhet, she'ena ba b'chinas gili klal u'b'chinas pshitas ha'atzmus.
Before it expressed
Where is
itself.
that?
That's right.
Before it expressed itself. It's not seen before it
No,
expressed
but even to himself.
Yeah.
Not even to himself.
Right.
So there's no. There's just.
Before it expressed itself as not seen.
Yeah, he uses the Ratzon Hanelim. Is correct. He does use it. I explained this last time, I think, but he doesn't. But he clearly cannot. He means Ratzon Hanelim simply because
Before it emerged, that's not seen even.
it's like the potential will later become Ratzon. But at this state, it's not a Ratzon. It's an Eir, not a Ratzon.
I mean, I'm like the Ayin Hashem,
where
before it emerged, right? You said that before it emerged.
I know it means pure desire. What do you mean by pure desire? I mean,
There's Ratzon.
clearly there's a level of Ratzon that is a creation, that is emerges. Because he talks about there's a state that he desired, there's a state he hadn't desired yet. So there's a state before desire, that's for sure. I would say this Ratzon Elam is before desire. We're just calling it the concealed Ratzon, meaning because not. This is Apasha. Anyways, I said you could break it into more levels. Here there's 3 levels. I would keep it to that. I would keep it before. We spoke about a level where he himself is not revealed even to himself what he wants yet.
Right.
So what does that mean? Is that a Ratzon or not a Ratzon? When you call, you know what you want, but you haven't told anyone. Then you've told somebody. That's 2 levels. Then there's a state that you don't even know yourself what you want. Hasn't yet come to a state of Ratzon. You call that Ratzon or not Ratzon?
Usual state.
I would call that not Ratzon. You can call it Ratzon. You want to call it. You like the word, fine.
We don't know.
But you can't. But it's.
We don't know what we don't know.
Is that even possible by God to have an unconscious of an unconscious?
Yeah, there is. There's a whole dimension of it. Yeah, because
God knows everything. So how would He not?
No. The other way around. Who says knowing is a mila?
Yeah.
Who says you have to know anything? We consider knowing. Who says being aware of something is important? When you are it, you don't need to be aware of it. Awareness is a creation.
It doesn't show a lacking.
I just told you. For us it is. But not for God. God is who He is. He doesn't need to be aware of anything. He is what He is.
Mm-hmm.
Awareness is already a level of revelation.
Yeah, but there's no such thing as time within God, right? There's no concept. It's before time.
So right now, all these levels exist.
If there's no such thing as time, how could there be a time when He didn't know?
So why don't you hear? I just told you. It's all happening right now. It's all the time. All the time. All these levels are there. That's the answer. You're not going to be able to envision beyond time because we are in time. But if you want to as a mind game, you could just remember, all this is happening right now. There's a level beyond time and a level in time in God Himself. How do you like that? Not just that He's beyond, He's also within. Because He wants to be within. Remember, any limitations, any logical limitations, any paradoxes you have, don't exist there. The word paradox doesn't exist because there's no contradictions. Since when is awareness even a mila? It's like I just said. Awareness is already a creation. That you need to be aware of something means that you're one thing that are not aware. Now you become aware. That's a chiddush for us. But something that is it doesn't go through these stages.
But how do we know that there's a level, this unconscious level in God?
Because He told us.
Right.
And He created it. He created us in that image. He wanted us to understand Him within the world of time and structure. Basically, that's the whole. When you say finite means infinite, you know what the dilemma is? It's not just finite and infinite set of numbers. You're talking about a finite structure of existence that's defined by logical rules, that are defined by predictable rules, should come to an indeterminate state. That is, in many ways, an absolute contradiction. It's easier to understand finite and infinite conceptually, but we're talking here, how can we relate to a God that doesn't have any rules? And doesn't need any rules. And yet He created all these rules. And He bound Himself to them. So Tzelem Elokim itself is a contradiction of terms. God is no Tzelem, and He put Himself into a Tzelem. So is this God or is not God? That's the dilemma here. And the answer is that Atzmus, number one, is beyond it all. So that's not an issue. For Atzmus, anything could be possible. There's no such thing as contradictions or questions. But that would be for Atzmus. It wouldn't work for us. We can't relate to such a reality. We cannot relate to a reality that is beyond any reality, beyond anything. So whatever reason He wanted to have an existence like ours, but one thing is clear, this existence is a logical one. It's one that you can, in this logical system, God gave us tools to get to a place to be able to connect to God that's beyond it all. That's what it comes down to.
We just said that there's a logical system with Tame mitzvahs, and then there's an illogical Kabbalah soul. So there's a
super rational.
Super rational. There is a super rational system coinciding.
And then there's a state that's beyond super rational too.
Which is Etzem.
Or even maybe Etzem is even beyond that too. But that's
So within Etzem, you're saying that there could be a concept that there's no such thing as unconsciousness of God. In Etzem, we don't know. God could be conscious of everything.
You talk about Etzem, you're not talking. You can't talk anything. There's nothing to talk about. The Atzmus itself is beyond anything we can speak about. All we can do is negate everything we know and just say, the way that Rebbe Rasha puts it elsewhere is called, what he calls, he says, Shlilas Achiyuv v'Shlilas Hashlila v'Shlilas Hashlila Hashlila, if you want. That's all you can say about it. Basically, you can say it's not this, but it's not this, and it's not this. You get it? Infinitely.
Yes.
That's all you can really do there. But you know something? You get there because God gave us tools to get there. Because remember, that same Atzmus implanted Himself in Giluyim, in a structured existence. So in structure, we are able to get there. because he put himself in here.
But will we eventually be able to get to Etzem? And what I might mean by that is that by the Shlila, Derech HaShlila, by negating what he's not, if you have infinite time, which is the Gula Shlema, it's an infinite time, ultimately, if you negate that it's not this, it's not this, and not this, you keep heaving away the layers forever, you'll eventually will get to what it is.
Yeah, the problem is the other way around. The problem is... No, 1 second. The problem then is, once you get there, do you still maintain who you are? Or you lose yourself?
Well, you can enter parties like Rabbi Akiva.
But you could argue that he didn't get the etzem. You could argue he only got part of it because he remained intact. The chiddush is the other way around. Can you go there and come back, so to speak, to tell about it? No. What I meant is that would we remain individual entities, and that's the big dilemma that chiddush is dealing with. Because the answer is yes.
You will.
Yeah, and that's how the question is how. How is that possible? Because that's the biggest contradiction. To get burned up, Nadav and Avihu went into the Mishkan and they got burned up, but they didn't remain alive. Right? But there are many Klois HaNefesh that lost their individuality in the process. That is maybe not easy to do, but that makes sense. If you go into the Etzem, you stay in the Etzem, and that's it. Then you're no longer you. Then it's the Etzem. But that's not what God wanted. He wanted Dira B'Tachteinim. Because if he wanted that, he didn't need the whole thing in the first place. He had the Etzem. He didn't need you to come to the Etzem. He wants an Etzem outside of the Etzem.
Right.
So that's the Chiddush.
So what I'm saying,
right.
So what I'm saying that ultimately it is possible to be a human being in Nashama B'Guf, and ultimately in over infinite time.
But you see, but these are words. These are words. If you really knew what Etzem was, you would not just say that so flippantly.
I'm not saying flippantly. I'm just traveling as far as you can.
Let's go a little lower than Etzem. Let's go a little lower than Etzem. Can you see a little lower than Etzem? Can you see Bli Gvul and Gvul joining totally without annihilating each other? Even that's impossible almost to figure it out. Forget about Etzem. Bli Gvul and Gvul itself is impossible. We are Gvul creatures. We are people of structure. How could that structure be beyond structure? That we can touch beyond structure, yeah. That we can do a mitzvah given to us from an entity that's beyond structure, yeah. But that we should actually become Gvul and Bli Gvul together, it seems impossibility. Atzmus is infinitely more complicated, because there you're talking beyond even Bli Gvul. Look,
no? So do we have Bli Gvul?
You're talking on paper or you're talking in reality? Show me a person that's done it, and then we'll talk.
I'm not saying he's done it.
We all die.
We know the Gula Shlema is true, but we haven't done it either.
Exactly. So and I'm trying to say is that
I want to see the answer.
I'm saying, we have Bli Gvul in us.
What will happen with the Gula Shlema? He is going to be the Etzem. I'm talking now about the Etzem, the Atzmus.
I'll tell you what frustrates me here. What you're doing is the thing that I am at war against.
No.
And that is that. What I'm at war against is people saying things they don't that are just mouthing slogans. I'm not saying you per se, but the way I hear it, I hear slogans here. I don't hear any seichel. Slogans. It's very easy to say, oh yeah, no, what? Gili, Etzem, we're going to bring Gvul into Etzem, it's all going to be good, Mashiach, everything is great. When I sit down and start talking about it, I find people have difficulty even being a little spiritual during the day, frankly, and not giving in to their material desires. So if you could show, so just to throw something, to get connected to Atzilus seems to me, Avram Avinu, you're talking about Neshama of Atzilus, or people like Moshe Rabbeinu. We're not even talking about Atzilus is a world of Gvul. And you're just, Bli Gvul is for sure good. You're already in Atzmus. I'm just trying to point out, you're saying it so easily, that, to me, if I had Neshama of Atzilus right here, I would be stand. The Rebbe is in Neshama of Atzilus, it doesn't say more than that. So, good, Atzmus and Aguf, whatever that means. But my point is that you say it so easily. And to me, the Rebbe Rashab would not have to write thousands of pages if it was. He could have just said, Atzmus in this world, Mashiach, and we're done. The problem is not the goal, the problem is how to get there when you're dealing with such contradiction. We have a war between our Nefesh Elikis Nefesh Habamis, or called perceived Nefesh Habamis, whatever you want. Then you have the battle between Gvul and Bli Gvul. And talking about Atzmus. Atzmus is beyond the whole thing. The whole reason that it was at Tzimtzum, there's a whole reason he went through the whole bother of doing all of this, is because there's no way to get to Atzmus. The only way is through all these levels. Now, yes, if you ask me the end goal, my answer to you is I think once you have a relationship with Atzmus, you wouldn't be asking such questions. And probably that itself is an endless journey. Because Atzmus is not a vacation resort that we've hit the prize. See, we would look like this. Okay, I did my work. Now I can go and have my beach. And that's it. I found Atzmus, and I'm going to now bask in the sun of Atzmus. I think the opposite. I think when you get to a place like that, it probably becomes Ein lehem menucha, lo b'elam hazav v'lo b'elam haba. Then you really realize, man alive, I'm not even close. So I'm just saying, I'm just reacting. Your words sound to me almost like, number one, there's like a destination that's very defined, and we're almost there. It's very nice. And I agree also, Mashiach is right here, so why not? But remember, after Mashiach comes, it says it just begins. Just the only thing that finished is the war between good and evil. Then starts the whole thing. In good itself, you've got yourself a whole new series of levels that are in safe. My point is, I don't think what I'm saying you disagree with, by the way. I'm reacting not to you, I'm just reacting to the idea of it. That's why I'm saying to you, it's far more complicated, because even Matan Torah itself, the Jews couldn't even hear the Aseret HaDibros without staying intact. That the Neshama left them by every Dibur, and it had to be a special miracle to get them back. Just giving you an example, and Matan Torah didn't even last. We're many years afterwards. My point is, this world takes a lot of refinement for it to begin to get those energies flowing. And there's a process. There is definitely a process. End goal, I don't like to use the word end goal. The kavanah dira b'tachteinu will be fulfilled. But I think it's not just some type of, okay, we finished the game and now we get our prize. Then will be a real relationship between levels that are far beyond we'll ever imagine and us. And in some way, yes, we will be there to talk about it. At the same time, we will also be part of something far beyond it. And I think a state of bittul also, remember, we also talk as ego people, like me, God, and so on. At some point, bittul and yesh come together. What I mean by that is, it won't be like, I gained this level, I gained that level. It'll become an experience that will be both you there, at the same time you in awe of something far beyond you. And it just in some beautiful way, comes together without and I think in that itself there'll be a continued journey. I think, I just want to spell out, that Atzmus I would not speak about right now, because Atzmus doesn't have any, you can't talk about Atzmus without Eir. In Torah Shalom, as a matter of fact, he says, what did you say about Atzmus? You're already talking Eir, because as soon as you say something, words are Eir, not Etzem. Etzem is not expressible. So we're talking about Eir. In Eir there's Etzem Eir, which we call now, yes, sounds like we're saying Ratzon Hanelim. It's the Ratzon. Remember, there was a place we learned that there's two levels of Ratzon. There's a Ratzon before you even know that you have that Ratzon. It's just like there, and he says it may never come out in the rest of your entire life. So that's similar to this level here. So yes, he does use the word Ratzon, I agree, but I don't think he uses it in the context of Ratzon as we know it. It's like the Etzem HaRatzon. You want to call it Etzem HaRatzon? I correct myself. I said before that you could say Etzem HaRatzon, but I would not call it Ratzon as an Etzem HaRatzon. I would say it's a place that's beyond what we define as Ratzon. What he said here earlier, that you can't give it a name yet. So yes, once you give it a name, it's going to be called Ratzon. Look, when God desires a world, it's God desiring it. But there's a level before He actually consciously desires it. Let's put it that way.
You say it's higher than Etzem HaKeser?
He's calling it Etzem HaKeser. He calls it Etzem B'chinas HaKeser.
Where are mitzvahs?
Mitzvahs are on all levels.
Yeah.
So 2001 based on?
Did they start in what desire? Or they before that?
Beyond becomes
Not clear here. It's not clear. Here I would say it probably starts.
That's it.
I got another chocolate.
Beautiful.
My second chocolate.
That's Atzmos.
Yes, I was going to say exactly what I was thinking.
Okay.
The chocolate?
No, it's not.
I think I have to clarify one thing. Maybe it'll help. When we say Etzmer and Ispashaseh, what does that mean? I think it's important to state that it's not two levels. It's not like Ratzon and Chachma. Ratzon and Chachma are two levels. Ratzon is a makivdik, transcendent energy. Let's say in our desires that doesn't have a particular container. And Chochmah is a particular container to understand something. However, in understanding, there's conscious understanding and there's an unconscious level where we don't comprehend. But there is a level of Chochmah. When you're talking about and the Pashtus you're just talking here, they're both really the same level. It's just one is an expression of it and one is the way it is in its core. So Chochmah is not just revealed Ratzon. Revealed Ratzon is like I said, like, you desire something in your heart, you want to have a home. Then you go out and express it, you tell people, I want to have a home, like Machshava and Dibur type of thing. But then you don't yet know that you want to even have a home. In other words, something in your soul, Ein Adam B'loi Bayis, it says. A human being is not complete without a home. But that doesn't mean you consciously have desired a home. It just means in your nefesh somewhere there is the need for that. But it's not in any way become even an expressed reality, even to yourself. That would be like a Ratzon Hanelam. He spoke about it. Remember he said Ratzon HaMuchlet, there's the Ratzon Hanelam. What chapters were that? The 2 targets in Ratzon. Where was it? Let me see. Right here. Chapter 64 or 65. So he said there, it's only huchlim v'chuskim. He just has determined. Remember we said it was more of a resolution, a determination. He's not yet doing anything. He's not yet drawn to it. He says, that will never come to be.
That's deeper.
That is so clearly there's a level where you don't even know it yourself. There's a level where you know it only but to yourself, and then there's a level that you express it to another. So it seems here these are the 3 levels. The Ratzon Hanelam would be you don't even know it yourself. Then there's Gilui La'atzmei, and that in there's Chochmah Stima. There's a hidden reason, and then there's Gilui Lazulis, which is already where Midas and the Malchus are.
That this is the level that you don't even know yourself. Why can't this be the level of it's nuts and analum? The nuts and analum that you can't know for yourself is even higher than that. It's beyond Keser.
That's what the Ratzon Hanelam means.
No, because the lower levels is expressed Ratzon already. This is the Ratzon, that's the way you know it in yourself. It's not expressed yet.
And no reason yet.
It's not expressed yet. It's just inside.
Because he said it beferish, that's why.
Are you aware?
Because he called Chochmah Gluya b'chinas Gilui La'atzmei Adayin.
Yeah.
Which means not even to La'atzmei.
Right.
He said that's right. Why don't you read a line before? The line before is Gilui La'atzmei. So what's higher than Gilui La'atzmei? That's not Gilui La'atzmei. Right. That's Ratzon Mislabesh B'Chacham Mislema.
It's implying that you have to that Ratzon that's revealed to the person always has a reason. It has to be Ratzon of a person.
Right. It's Gilui La'atzmei.
Higher than reason.
What are you saying?
So
he says a Ratzon, but there's the Ratzon. That Ratzon comes down into Chacham Mislema. So. But this Ratzon, then Omnam, it's a B'chinas Ratzon al Legam, she'ena bo B'chinas Gilui Klal. There's no Gilui, even La'atzmei, meaning. That's why I said it. There's no reason that, yeah. He says, Ve'ena bo B'chinas Gilui Gam La'atzmei. He says it's beferish. That's why I said it. I didn't make that up. Ki B'chinas Ratzon Nelam Levad. So I'm explaining it based on what he said earlier.
The Asilovoi will be the Gilui Ha'atzmus. Said V'niglo Kvoid Hashem. What does it mean?
Just before we change the subject, is that telling us the depth of Ratzon?
What?
Is that telling us the depth of Spirit St. Kate's? Is that telling us that Ratzon
He's trying to explain how there's spheres even in Ratzon,
no,
in
not
Bligbo.
spheres in Ratzon. I did ask that question. The fact that there's Ratzon Nelam, that it's such a deep thing, is that telling us that the next step greater than that is Sphere St. Kate's, where there's no Ratzon? And it's telling us the depth of Ratzon.
I understand Sphere St. Kate's here is on the second level of Arich.
And this Ratzon Nelam is where?
Is Atik. Yeah, you were saying Gilui Atzmus. That's what it says. Though, so will be Gilui Atzmus. I mean, well, Pi Hanal. Well, Pi Kol Hanal. We'll learn now the last chapter. Kuf Chavov. Well, Pi Kol Hanal.
Everything except everything.
Yeah.
Just 1 second. Okay. Well, Pikol Hanal. The question I remained with me was, and I'm not sure, because I keep going back and forth, whether spheres behirus, not 10 spheres, or infinite spheres, whether the spheres behirus, from the word, well, two questions. The word from brightness, is that also an atik, or is it only in arich? No, it's only in hodar, or also hoid? Etzem ha'er, does it have anything called brightness? It sounds like not, on one hand.
Sounds like it starts in Arich.
Right. And the second question is, you said arich is sphere saying ketz. Remember, you said atik is an tu chad. V'lei b'chushbon is an arich. And now he's establishing that also in arich you have 10, not just sphere saying ketz. So that's also interesting, in other words. So it has a level that's infinite spheres in arich, and not the infinite spheres is in atik. Infinite spheres in arich, and then there's a dimension where it has actual 10 spheres. The Esser spheres Agnuzis is like the lower, is not infinite spheres. It sounds like that there's two levels. There's the Er HaBlikvul, has with envisions in it self the Er HaGvul.
Didn't he answer that here, the last two lines?
So what's it? So at the end of the day, Arich is both spheres saying cats on one end, and also Esser sphere and Makir for the Esser sphere. Right. Like in other words, how the Er HaBlikvul envisions the Er HaGvul essentially. No, I'm just qualifying. Yeah, that's exactly correct. That's what you have to say. In other words, an atik, meaning in Hoid, in Etzem ha'er, you don't even have that yet. There's not even spheres saying cats. Yet he said, if you remember, that every gilui is a sphere. So Etzem ha'er, you have to say, is no gilui yet, because it's not as pashto say.
You said it doesn't even a gilui lautzman. Did you say that? It's not even a gilui lautzman.
No, I meant the gilui compared to atzmus. However, it is Hoid, it is a levush. However, it's not a gilui. It's a concept of a gilui. Yeah, no, I understand. It's not a gilui atzmi, but is it a gilui period? Okay, just wanted to spell it all out. That's why this with levels are all coming together here. Following? Okay. According to the above, Yuvan Mashin is Bar Le'el B'tchilas Hadrush. It's a very momentous occasion here. We're doing a siyum, not a complete siyum, but a siyum of one section. It's a siyum. That we'll understand what it said. B'tchilas Hadrush, in the beginning of the drush. Begimel Pirushim Shebe Keser, in the three interpretations of Keser. Anybody remembers what they are? Okay, so what are they? Lashon Keser Li Zoyer Dinyone Shtika. One was Li Zoyer, which means the word Zoyer comes from the word to me silence, Shtika. V'Lashon Keser VaTorah B'chinas Er Makif. The next interpretation was Keser Torah, like a crown that is above, like a surrounds. V'Lashon Machtir Shu Sivuv Kol HaAtzilus B'Teichei. And Lashon Machtir means that it encompasses. The difference between the second and third is Keser Torah is like above and beyond, like a crown that's on top of the head. Machtir means like a circle that surrounds, like with a sphere, like a sphere that surrounds. Was it surround all of Atzilus? V'hu inyan tarach ha'amudim. That's the 620 pillars. Taryag and Zayin. 600. The word Keser is Tarach. 620 pillars. Now he's going to explain these three levels of Keser. The three levels that we're discussing now. Let's see if we got it right.
It's round. The pillars are round. That's why he's bringing pillars. Because if you look at the pillars, it could be Yeshi. He's talking about premium, but not bringing it because of the round aspect.
Okay. Because what's explained from all that was discussed earlier, it's a real summation here. That they're in general, Yeah? Yeah. Okay, very good. What is saying? Okay. Okay, very nice. So there are generally two levels of revelation. There's two levels in general of the revelation of the infinite divine light. The first is Era Primi, immanent energy, its inyan, its role is to radiate, illuminate the worlds. And what is the root of these energies? Adrei all the way to the highest of levels. Oh, no, I'm sorry. And there's the root of these energies all the way to the highest point. So that's number one. That's basically two tracks. Divine energy. Beis, the second track, not air pnimi, an air that's ein seif, an air that does not have any defined parameters. So that's not Gilead, that's not to radiate the world. This is Gilim and Etzem. Its role is simply revealing a revelation, expression of the source. And here's the third. And in this higher level itself, there are two levels. A makiv that's completely removed, like we said, a rotzen that's completely removed from any imminent particulars. And the second, it's not just completely removed, it's a Gilead Etzem, but it has some relationship, it's surrounding at least some relationship to the structure. So we have the structure, we have the air that has a relationship with it, and then we have the air Ablikvul, the highest level, that's just completely apart. I don't know, there's a lot of names for it. I'd stay away from names until he spells them out. I understand what you're saying. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe you want to say that Naran is the first level and Chai is the second and Yichid is the third? It sounds right to me, but I would be careful because just for if it helps you, fine. But just remember, if you find a contradiction, you're going to have to go back to. I'm saying it sounds fine. It sounds all right with me. Basically, it's correct. There's Pnimi, Makif HaKorev, and Makif HaRachik. That's another way that it's called. But I want to see how he's going to spell it out here. Huh? Which one's Torah mitzvahs? I don't know. I mean, again, you start fitting things. I don't know. Let's see what he says. Let's see what as much as he'll say. Then we'll speculate. He's got more to say. V'zeu gimel inyanim hanal. And these three levels. You all got the three? Again, imminent, transcendent that is related to the imminent, and transcendent that's beyond the imminent. But generally it's two. Now he says these are the three things that we said Sheba Keser. The three meanings in Keser are these three levels. In Keser, remember. So we're not talking about Air Pnimi Mamas. Like he said, in Keser was already so-called spirits in Keser. So remember there's so again, what did we say before? Remember he said there's one level is Malchus and Midas in Keser, in Arich. That's what becomes the root of Chachma Gluya, conscious faculties, the conscious 10 spheres, the spheres Hagluyas. There's a level of Chachmas Tima in Keser, and there's a level of Keser Sheba Keser. Because I didn't intentionally, because he's not really talking about Bina here. Bina was in the parentheses. He said it became the source of Keser Levat. It's basically Midas and Meichen, Chachmas Tima, and then Keser Sheba Keser.
What do you mean Gluyas in Keser?
No.
What did I say? Glui? I said the midas. So look, read the last chapter. He talks about it.
What he's talking here about.
He's not talking about Pnimi. He's talking now the root of the Pnimi in the Blikvul, and that midas of Meichen of Keser is where Chachma Gluya of Atzilus of the Gluyas comes from. So first things is Zel Gimel Yonim Moshe because in Yisiv of Atzilus B'Teichei. This was the third, the Tarach Hamudim, the 620 pillars.
That's the lowest one.
It looks like it. We say the Sivuv, that it surrounds all of Atzilus within it. This is the Makiv that's already connected to Pnimi. That's the root of the Pnimi that's encompassed in the infinite. In other words, how the infinite is envisioning the finite. This is like a key component. Remember, in this Hemshech, he's talking that there's in the Gvul, also in Eir, there's spheres. That means in the infinite energy, he envisioned finite energy. The infinite possibilities of the artist and the finite possibility. So what is going on here? That in Keser, he's envisioning Chachma of Atzilus. So that Keser is Masha Ein Sof Shir Ba'atzmei L'Hayr B'Chinas Midei Gvul. That Ein Sof, the level of Bli Gvul that he's speaking here, is Shir Ba'atzmei. He's estimating within himself to radiate enough in with measure and with parameters. Shenizbar Leil Perek Chav Zayin that we learned before chapter 27. Shezo B'Chinas Malchus Shebein Sof. That's Malchus Shebein Sof. We're here, as I said, it's right now interchangeable. Keser and before the Tzimtzum is now talking very similarly. It's like microcosm, macrocosm, basically. So what is Malchus Shebein Sof? Malchus is an Ein Sof, but it's Malchus. So that's like the lower level. What he said now, Malchus of Keser, in the previous chapter. This is the first meaning, the first Keser, first meaning in Keser, or the third meaning in this case. B'chinas Keser v'Torah. Then meeting. I understand. Okay. The second is Keser v'Torah. Now we're talking about a crown. Zeu ba'er makif atzmei. That's the makif itself. Hainu ba'er sheb'chinas Ein Sof. How the energy is in the state of Ein Sof. It's not how it's relating. It's not how the artist who has infinite possibilities is envisioning one possibility. It's how he is in his infinite place. But it is in a state of makif al kapon. It is a crown on a head. It's not somewhere else. There is something going on here.
Which is connection. Which is connection already.
It's makif to something.
Yeah.
The first one was the source as a source for business.
The source is where it envisions the gevul. Here we're talking about it's like beyond that, but it's still a form of makif, meaning there's something to talk about. It's like the unconscious mind, what he said, Chochmas Tima, like the reason, but it's a different level reason.
It's a makif to the makif that becomes the source. It's not really the makif directly to the...
Right. And the third level, B'chinas Keser Li, we say Keser Li, Rishtika, from the meaning silence, He Kamosha L'mayla Gam B'chinas Makif Le'elmas. Here he's beyond even makif. He's not even a makif. It's completely beyond existence.
What does it mean? Makif lo elamas.
There's no shachas to elements.
Makif means
No
it
way.
is.
No, it's not.
It says L'mayla Makif, B'chinas Makif.
Halamayla gam. Mi b'chinas makif.
Yeah. Because the other one...
B'chinas makif. K'may shalamayla gam b'chinas makif lo elamas.
It's not even a makif.
Lamayla mi b'chinas. B'chinas means that it is. Lamayla for makif. But here it says shebo b'chinas makif.
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
That's probably Atik, yeah. Based on what he's saying. That's Keser Shebi Keser.
That's Keser Shebi Keser.
Based on how he's saying it here.
Because in Aleph there's two levels, right? In Aleph there's two levels. There's Malchus, the Malchus can't say which is the lowest level.
Malchus is like what becomes Chachma Geluya. Zroyas, that's Malbish L'Zroyas.
It's higher than makif to the higher than
Yeah. You, I think. It'll work for now. Okay, Amnam Yashlemer. Look, these three levels have been discussed at length in the last 125 chapters. And there's an entire chapter, if you want to really look inside, look in chapters 56 as he refers to, 55. There's basically, you have to remember, like I'll go back to the example he used, which I think is easier through the faculties. Let's talk. There's generally speaking, when Chassidus talks about, it's usually 4 levels, but I'm going to stick to 3 here. You have what's called Keiches HaGluyim. These are revealed faculties. Okay? A revealed faculty would be your mind is right now engaged in thinking process. You're conscious. You're aware of an idea. 2 + 2 = 4. That's a revealed faculty. A revealed faculty is your eyes are open and you're seeing things. A real faculty is your legs are walking. There's then called Keiches Nalamim. Keiches Nalamim means the faculty is there, but it's not revealed. So you could be lying in bed and not using your feet. You're not walking. That doesn't mean you can't walk. It just means right now you're not walking. Your faculty is essentially in a state of concealment. Or you could not be using your mind. Even though your mind has capacity to work, you're not using it. whatever reason. You're asleep, or you think about stupid things, whatever it is. I mean, that's also thought, but
That's
I'm talking about.
That's that level.
Yeah. But it's not fundamentally, you can't say that it's completely non-existent. Then there's Keches, what's called Keches Atzmim. Keches Atzmim are not even in the state of potential revelation. That's like your soul, they're the faculties inside your soul. Like your soul has the power to see. So it's not even considered yet even a source for Seichel. So Seichel Hanelam would be, the mind is just concealed, it's not yet there on that level. We spoke an example would be there are people who understand things completely different way. Two people look at the same thing, and this one understands it superficially or regularly, and this one understands completely differently. So it's a chacham u'meiva midaita. He has a higher level of wisdom, but it is wisdom. You can't say it's not. Koyach hamaskil, the power to conceive ideas, is a koyach nelam. You can't call it seichel, but you can't say it's not seichel. Like he says, when you say it's not seichel, you're negating the active conscious seichel, but you're not negating that is the power of seichel. When the seichel is in the nefesh, meaning, let's say, even before you came down to a body, a soul carries powers. There, it's not even a state of potential. To get to that, you need a whole different type of effort to be able to reach into that place. That's keches atzmim. So there, you don't even give it. You can't even call it a mocker for. It's somewhat similar to what he's saying. We're not even talking now the nefesh itself. We're not talking about the soul. So you have the soul. That's like the etzah. The highest level keches is like the highest level he's saying here. You can't even call it unconscious. It's not like a step before the conscious. It's completely getting carried. It's the power of the soul to conceive of ideas. It has no shape and form in any possible way. The level 2, what he calls here Keser HaTorah, is already a state of intelligence, except it's in a collective state, it's an unconscious state, it's not being revealed. It may be fundamentally difficult to access, but it's still a state of consciousness. It's just a higher state of consciousness. And then there's the revealed consciousness that we actually... Now we're not talking about the revealed as it is. We're talking about how the revealed is inside now. What's makes it a little complicated. All this is inside Keser. So in Keser itself, in the Bligvul itself, there's what is going to become revealed in a conscious way. That what remains unconscious, but it's still in a state of Chachma. It's called hidden Chachma, unconscious wisdom. And then there's a state you can't even call it that at all. You can't give it any name. It's just it's just a revelation from the core. Like the Keches Atzmim. It's an example, if you want, for these three things. Okay? So one you can call a makif le'elamis, the other one you can't even call a makif le'elamis. It's not even in that category. In a more simpler English, you have a student who, let's say, you see has potential, but they have not developed their potential. Okay, another student who's developed the potential. So that person is already consciously there. The one who hasn't developed potential, you realize that with certain work you can bring it out. But Keches Atzmim are not even in that category. Keches Atzmim is a whole different level. It's not like it's potentially there and I didn't bring it yet. That's called like a makif to elamis. Meaning, it's outside of you, but it's accessible, so to speak, or somewhat you can relate to it.
But this is also oil.
Which one? The highest? Yeah. I said even Keches Atzmim is not the nefesh. Like he says, a nefesh, even Yechida is not the nefesh. It's only Shemus Shenikru law. With certain tools, Yigiyah, Kabbalah Sel, Tsar, but you need, but that's because you're using it's not the regular flow. There you need, remember he said how you get the Keches Atzmim. No, for sure not. That's for sure not Keches Atzmim. Keches Atzmim, you see, for example, if we had a real mechanech, a real teacher, we don't even get to Keches Nelamim. Keches Atzmim, if you can get someone to help you get your Keches Atzmim, you're in good shape. That's very good. Because Keches Nelamim is basically you're born with the potential, but no one taught you how to access it. Let's say a person has music in them, and no one really. Then they find this master or mentor and says, "Hey, you're a brilliant musician." They tell you sit down and they coach you. That's Keches Nelamim. That's not Atzmim. Atzmim may be that you don't even know you're a musician, but something happens in your life that's completely weird, and suddenly your faculty emerges that no one even expected. It's not even through training. You need to have some type of anomaly, some type of weird experience. Usually.
And the marshal, that would be the makif that's not even shechus.
See what I'm saying? Potential is what you're expecting in education. We all have potentials that have not been actualized. So you need to have, you still need work to get there. But Atzmim is already something that, for example, a Baal Tshuva can reach Takayach Atzmi because he's fallen, or someone who's really been hurt. And the Nalam is not enough. It's not just potential being actualized. Because they went very far to the other extreme, they can reach into the Etzem in ways that another person could not. That would be a Baal Tshuva is an example. Someone who reaches because of the darkness brings them to an Etzem that they can not be reached through a Nela.
What is that, the Makif? That's not
like a tzaddik, the most a tzaddik can reach, I'm not talking about Lasov tzaddikai, but what Mashiach does. A tzaddik can reach, not just by revealed faculties, through effort, he also brings his hidden faculties. But to get the Etzem, you need some type of particular challenge or particular unique situation.
That is Atzmi.
Yeah, and right, and there's a shift. It's a different level. I mean, I'm just using examples just to show that there are three levels. If the three levels exist, almost in any situation you'll find them.
Sometimes the chide is
like we talked about. For example, you talk about helam sheyeshn b'mitzias, helam she'ein b'mitzias. So there's revealed, let's say, a coal that is revealed fire. It's fanned. You see the flames. It's burning.
Right.
Then you have a coal that is white coal, but you can't tell. Shall have us kshura b'gachalas. Shall have us kshura b'gachalas. Yeah. So you see a coal, it's white. For all you know, it's out. But you fan it, you suddenly see. You touch it, God forbid. So it's called helam sheyeshn b'mitzias. It's hidden, but it exists. Then a flintstone, nothing. You touch it, you can throw it in water. You can't extinguish it. You have to strike it very hard. When you strike it hard, that's what he calls in Samach Vav. He calls through Yegiyah, through hard effort, you can bring out. Or pain brings that out. Things that are challenges. That's Keches Atzmi. That's in this context, it's Helam She'ein b'mitzias.
That's the Mara Hara, the example in the Samach Vav, the one about the Rav, Mara Hara.
That does what? What does he do?
He's accessing Keches Atzmi because he is such a great Arias to.
Oh, you mean because it's Negei L'Poel? You mean? Yeah, that's similar. When it's Jigiyah, it's like it requires pressure. Whether it's exactly that in relation to what we're discussing, it's a third level. Let's put it this way: conscious, hidden, but not concealed, but not completely gone. It's examples. Can I say it's exactly this level? No, I'm just trying to give some palatable examples. I'm sure there's going to be distinctions. So if you find somewhere something said about one of these levels, remember it's my example. He's not his example here, the Rebbe. But I think it gives you a little taste of relative so-called concealments.
But in your example, the flintstone would be like the furthest Makif.
Like Atik. Yeah.
Atik is a place with the
Keser Shebekesa. In this case, shtika, yeah, silence, yeah. Katarli.
Katarli ze'er.
Yeah, Katarli ze'er. And there means shtika.
Yeah. Katarli.
It's not accessible. Kasher shtika is a
Katarli, we're just being corrected. Katarli. Yeah. Here he goes. Ubchinis Katarli, v'shtika, who commercial maila gam b'bchinis makiv. Yeah, you're right. It would probably be easier if it said mibchinis makiv le'elmas. It could be. It could be something looked at, but he definitely means that. Commercial maila maybe means commercial maila gam b'bchinis makiv le'elmas. Maila also from makiv le'elmas. Okay. Omnam yesh le'ema.
Sometimes is called the etzem. Is this only a shema mushal?
Yeah, Shema Mushal. It says clearly that Yechida is closest, like Gilui Ha'etzem is closest to the Etzem, but at the end of the day it says Chamisha Shemes Nikru Law. So who's Law? Etzem HaNeshama. In this case, Yechida would be like Etzem Ha'er, and the Neshama would be like the Moyer, like the source itself. Omnam Yashlema Kol Elu Hagimul Madregas Hakol B'chinas Eir Ein Sof Kamei Shabbat B'chinas Makiv. However, we can say all these three levels are all in the Erein Sof Kamei Shabbat B'chinas Makif. In other words, we're not speaking now Pnimi Makif, that's the Makif that's close and the Makif that's distant. It's all in Makif. It's all in Keser.
What does it mean Yeshem? This is what he just said. He said all that.
I know. I thought about that too, because I think. Because he says Shir Atzmei B'Koyach, that's what this book is. I think he's going back because he said on top, one is Er Pnimi. He didn't really spell it out. So though yes, it's alluded to, but right when he said there's two levels of air, he said one is air primi shulahayos elamis, and shashayos amrei mamalis. He's going back to that. They're saying even shashayos, even air primi.
The Sagraim, you could see that he's talking about the highest level.
Not in Sagraim yet.
No, right after that. שגם בחינה שתיקה אין זה בבחינת עצמוס הכסר ממש.
I think he's going back. Okay, let me see. But what I would say is not. I remember. I also read it knowing that that's what he means. But it is in Keser. He did say it's three levels in Keser, so you could say it's. I think he wants to. He's just emphasizing it more. I don't know if it's a chidush legaba what he said right before. Let me read it. Let me see. Maybe there's something here that I'm missing. That's right. שגם בחינת שתיקה אין זה בחינת עצמוס הכסר ממש.
The other way.
Or maybe the other way around, in other words. Not
He should be the higher.
He's not talking about the Pnei. That's the Pnei.
I don't know. I'm not sure yet. We'll soon get there. Anyways, he's saying that even the level of shtika, even the highest level of silence, katar li zoyer, zeir, ein ze b'chinas atzmus hakeser mamish. That's not the real core of keser. Hainu b'chinas pnimis hakeser, meaning the inner keser, ki'im b'chinas haratzon. We're still speaking the level of ratzon. In other words, even this highest level that he called now, katar li, is still not pnimis hakeser. The question is.
Maybe that's what it says.
Could be. That's right. It could be. Well, let's see why. The question. One second. There's a lot to go here. There's an interesting development here. I'm glad he's keeping us on our toes. No, but we have to see why is he saying this. Why is this important to emphasize? So let's see. Because Eir Ein Sof, meaning all levels of Eir Ein Sof.
So he meant the Yesh Leimer that everything I talked about before was only talking about or and not talking about
but not Pnimius Atzmus Keser.
Atzmus Keser. This is not Atzmus.
No, it's never Atzmus yet. No, but let's see. Please, I ask you all not to jump because we're not. Let's not make the. One second. Why can't we read what he's saying here? Why do we have to go somewhere else? Let me ask you something. You really think you're going to get it better without reading what the Rebbe Rashab says? Honestly, what do you think? Is it impatience, or you really want to just get to the point? Honestly, I would not even speculate anything. He's in the middle of the sentence. If he finishes and we still have a problem, then we'll worry about it.
Go.
Is that fair? Now, the tragedy would be if the Rebbe Rashab right here, a fire broke out on Lubavitch and he couldn't finish the sentence. So we'd have to then sit and figure out what did he mean. But thank God that didn't happen. That happened another time. Meaning Eir Ein Sof, meaning all the levels we just discussed. Even though it's Gilim and Etzem and it's not Lahoyer El Elamis. We're not talking about Er Pnimi, the conscious energy that goes into the existence, but it's revelation of the source. Nevertheless, it came to a Makif Le'elamis. Even the highest level, he's saying now. Because then it has at least some type of relationship to the worlds, Vishtalshlus. It's the cosmic order, Shabbat B'chinas Islapshus Vishtalshlus. What comes?
Further on.
The later levels will come into, that manifest in Shtalshlus. No, it also not only has a shaykhus and it comes in Islapshus in some way. And nevertheless, it retains its level of Ein Sof U'Kanal.
Oh, Kanal is the previous passage.
Like we learned before. One second. Like Ratzon, even when it impacts. No, what he's trying to say here is, don't just separate these three levels as they're all ultimately connected with existence.
Yep.
No matter how you twist it. It's just a question of what the relationship is. That's what he's really clarifying here. In other words, okay, very good. Kanal. And we explained she is gimel madregas. And in this, in other words, he's basically saying that they're all connected, but in this itself there are three levels. One is how Ratzon, the desire which is Keser, manifests in Chacham Datzilus, Rubchinis Ratzon Goli. That's a revealed desire, let's say a mitzvah that has a reason, etc. Beis is bechinas Ratzon Nelim shemislabish b'chachman aloma. The second is the Ratzon Nelim is a concealed Ratzon that manifests in a hidden chachma. By the way, what I said before about chachman aloma is what I said. That's where he says lehelim sheyeshem mitzias. So it's chachma, but it's hidden. V'hu b'chinas makif l'gab Atzilus. This is a makif compared to Atzilus.
These are the pillars.
This is already, I think, no, the crown. The first one's the pillars. And the third is the core desire that doesn't come at all revealed, even not to himself. Yeah, but that's still not primis etzmas hakasa. That's what he's saying. It's still all in the level of makif to worlds. The difference is how far one goes right into the world, one remains a little above it, and one remains far above it. Yeah.
He also says that has a sheikhs to the world.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. In other words, Hoyd also has a sheikhs. But let's see. V'ze'in gimel madregas anal. And these are the three levels. He's not finished yet. 1 second. We still got a few more. I don't want to jump because there's different ways you could explain. Let's see. Also, there's another thing. He's summing up. If you really learned all the Maimorim before, and I went back to some, you see he's bringing it all together. He wants to make sure it's very clear what levels we're talking about, because the many levels were discussed. Okay, the 620 pillars of light. That's what is transmitted from Keser to the emanations of Atzilus. Right, exactly. And that's the revealed Ratzon.
Tarach is the mitzvah.
Correct. Like the Pardes writes in Sharches Perigim B'Shem Rabbi Nechunya ben Akane. The name of Rabbi Nechunya ben Akane was a Tana. So Sharches Perigim, what does he write? B'tfilose Ekreecha B'tarmrach Hamudei Er. In his prayer, that I call to you with these 620 pillars of light. Shehem reish milulecha. These are the beginning of my words. Milulecha is
your words.
Reish milulecha, the beginning of your words, the head of your words. Reish. Shem tikun l'reim ma'losecha. L'rum ma'loscha.
He's explaining it. The Pirush.
1 second. So what's he saying?
He's going to explain.
But Chanya was mechabed film. Okay. Shem tikkun means a tikkun, a repair for rum malasecha means for the heights of your magnitude or your majesty, the heights of your majesty, dignity. Malasecha.
That's a flaw.
Well, Pirush ekra'echa means kriya v'amshacha. When you say ekra'echa, I call to you, it's a kriya. When you kriya, it's kriya v'amshacha. Kriya means you're drawing out. Shu hashpoa ma keser. So as soon as you call to something, it means you're calling. So when you call, you want to draw it out. You say to somebody, you say doctor, professor, or Mesha, Eliezer, Tzvi. I'm calling upon you. I'm calling you out. I'm like an aliyah. Like when you say, yeah, right. Like you're where you are. I want to draw you to my attention. Yeah. So that's a kriya. So he says akreecha means that he calls that kriya. That means the hamshacha of tarach hamudeh, the hamshacha of ashpa of keser. Shem reish milulecha, which is the beginning, the head of your words. What does that mean? Pirush tchilas is galus ein sof. It's the first words that God utters. Essentially, I'm drawing you out. It means the first words that you utter, the beginning of the revelation of Ein Sof, Shehem Tikkun, and that's a Tikkun.
What do you mean Tikkun, fixing or arranging?
Here Tikkun means Tikkun. Arranging is more correct, but okay, let's go. Let's see. Because you say because the Tikkunim, like it says in Pasuk Chilyon, we say they're Tikkunim. The Eser Tikkunim name.
Adornments.
Right. So adornments, ornaments. So it's essentially, it's really. Tikkun is repaired, but not as in broken and repaired. It's also broken and repaired from Toyu, but repaired here more in beautification. Like it's, like you said, arranged, organized, beautified, ordered, in ordered form, organized form. You could say it's also Tikkun as opposed to Bligvul. It's coming into a structure. It's structured. Ke'inyan she'eses spheres hem Tikkun ha'maitzil. What does tikkun mean here? Yeah, exactly. That the 10 spheres are the tikkun hamaitzel, not the repair of the source. Tikkun hamaitzel means
makes up the.
What do ornaments do? They adorn you. The adorning of the divine. the beautification and the adorning of the divine.
Adorning is very different than
They're
structure.
creating this
We use the
structure.
term structuring also.
But here, structure is also a beautified structure. He'd use takshitin, right? Kishutin.
Structure makes beauty.
But they're both the same thing.
Structure makes beauty apparent.
Right. Because when you put on the right beautification, you put on the right
It brings out the structure better.
adornment brings out the structure in its fullest form.
Something superfluous and an addition.
Don't think of a human adornment. Think of somebody putting on makeup that doesn't look like makeup. It's just bringing out your natural beauty. Think of it that way.
Adornment or
I thought the natural beauty there's something to do without makeup.
No, but there's sometimes true jewelry is supposed to bring out your natural beauty. Enhances.
Without makeup.
It enhances the structure.
Enhancement?
Yeah, that's what
I would go even further than enhancement.
It's more basic, isn't it? Or is it a basic structurally organization, or is it an enhancement and an adornment?
Think of it this way.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me tell you. Let me tell you how I see it. Okay. If we're talking here, the cloth. Think of the cloth is white parchment. An artist begins to paint something. Paints a face. So first he makes the structure, the outline. Then he fills in the color. So when you finish, that's the tikkun ha-sfiris. If you don't just have the outline, you have a full-bodied, and I would call that both a combination. We're not talking about adornment as in a dover nesif, like you're adding on just what they say like someone's just spilling jewelry all over the place. We're talking about something that's subtle, but brings out the full structure of the beauty of Chachma. For example, Chachma bina das chesed gvura. They could just have the core chesed, or you could have chesed in its full glory. That's what the tikkun means. It's the full tikkunim, it's the full spheres in their full glory.
When he speaks about tikkun.
But tikkun ha-maitzel, not because the maitzel needs tikkun, it's because the maitzel on his own is amorphous. He's beyond shape and form. Here you're talking about, when you say, what's the expression there in Pasuk Eliyahu? You say, Antu chad v'lei b'chushbon, what do you say? Leave the light. Then he says, Eser tikkunin, tikkun lei, right? It's a lashon there. Eser tikkunin, tikkun lei. Exactly. That what he made 10 adornments or 10 expressions.
Could you say it's the final preparation for the next stage, like a tikkun kli, masakin mona, that something exists in itself and now it's prepared for what it's supposed to function?
You could say that also, a type of preparation. Yeah, you could say a type of acclimation. What's the word? Not just preparation. A type of refinement. Yeah. Shakim says, right, exactly. Because why is it tikkunim exactly right? Because in them and through them, it radiates Erein Sof. Yeah. So they are So, for example, if Chesed is not going to be in its
the Hushim is mastered.
Right. If Chesed and Gvur are not going to be in their full structured thing like an Atzilus, the flow of Ein Sof will not come into this existence. That's very good. That's Pei Kuvov. Yeah. That's what he says. Commissions Barleil Pei Kuvov, like he says in chapter 106. Is that where you looked?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Pei Kuvov. Right. That's right in the beginning of Sapir, right? Yeah, good, right here. Page 205. Kain Pirish HaPardes Sham. That's how the Pardes explains it. The Sham, and also there in the Pardes, it says, Shatarach Amudim Yesh Bahem Pnimi V'chitzen. That the 620 pillars have in them an outer and an inner and an outer. Umavor b'makam acher, and it's explained elsewhere. Shezar b'chinas er pnimi ve'er makif. That's the immanent, the inner energy, and the makif, the transcendent. Sham and Pardes, the er hamakubel lehem memayla hu er makif. Huh? The Sham.
What comes to them.
The er hamakubel b'hem, the er that is like received by them, that is makubel, but received within them. Memayla. From above, who er makif. Okay, got to look there what he says, but clearly what he's trying to bring here is that here too there's er pnimi and er makif in Keser itself. Now, what is he bringing out from this? Basically, that this level. So in Keser itself, you're drawing out the 620 pillars, and that becomes the beginning of the words. This is the beginning of the revelation of the tikkun. Essentially, he's proving here that Keser is not detached, but from Keser, the lower levels of Keser become the beginning of Atzilus. And the process begins, it's almost like taking out, Keser would be the parchment, and the beginning of the words that come out of him, beginning of your words, the Esther spheres that come out of it is this lowest level of Keser. Keser from the word Tarach Amud Er. That's what he's saying right now. And that itself has Er Pnimi Mar Makif, if you add in the parentheses.
Right.
So in other words, that too has two levels. This is Rotzen Hagoli. So let's put it this way. Let's be more specific. A person has a desire to build a home. That could be, as I said before, a completely hidden desire. He doesn't even know about it himself. It says, Ein Adam B'loi Bayis, Chassidus brings. As soon as you're born, a human being wants to have a place that he can call his own. But you ask a baby, they won't even know what you're talking about. So it's in there somewhere in the Etzma Nefesh. Then you have a Ratzon, where they're aware, but it's only to themselves. It's not yet in any. Then there's a Ratzon where it becomes active. Right now I want to build a home, the next year I want to build a home. But in that itself there are levels. There's the general plan, then comes the point where you sit down with the architects or the planners and say, here's exactly what I want. I want Chochmah here, Bina here, Chesed here, Gvura here, the whole tikkun. So he's saying what Rabbi Hanuna did was, he said, Akra'echa, I call to your 620 pillars that are possible, and I'm drawing them into Reish Melach. They should begin the beginning of your expression of Chochmah Bina. So you see how Ratzon is meeting, Makif is meeting 10 spheres. That's where the Ratzon is speaking to the 10 spheres. I want now Chochmah Bina. So you have 10 spheres emerging, but it's coming. It's all in the first. It's all in the, so to speak, the lowest. That's called Ratzon Gali.
Is he davening Rosh Hashanah night?
That's Midas. That's Malchus and Midas of Arich. What you said before.
Maybe a whole year was by Rosh Hashanah.
One second. Now goes the next level. Now he's working his way back. What's a level higher than that in Ratzon? This is now the hidden Ratzon. He's not talking about make me Chochmah Bina shape, starting to craft it all. The Ima Yesi Babchin is Tam Komos, even though it comes in a state of Tam Komos, means a hidden reason that others will not understand. You see, I should add something, by the way. Ratzon Gali also means not only I want Chochmah Bina, but I'm explaining to you why I want Chochmah Bina. I'm telling you why I want these mitzvahs. So you have now the time that every human being on earth can say, here's why I want this. I want it for this reason, for that reason. In other words, the sphere is gluyas, means the revealed faculties can understand the Ratzon of God. So he's creating something that you can understand.
It's not because of the time.
Right, exactly. It's not because of it, but it's manifesting in structure. So not just that it wants the structure. I just wanted to add that. It's actually giving us tools to understand the structure. Here, he's not telling you the reason. There's a reason, but it's a concealed reason. Nevertheless, even though you don't know the reason, but it's a form of makif compared to Atzilus, meaning there is a reason that we don't know. What's the point here? In the interface, you're not just jumping from a revealed structure to a to Ratzon. You're first of all understanding His will. Then you understand that there's something that you don't understand, but it's still understandable. That's Yidiyas Hashlila. So you come to negate and say, I don't know the reason, but I know there's a reason. It's just I don't know it. Remember he spoke about Yidiyas Hashlila? Okay, then that's the Gabi Chachma. So it's already the beginning of the conscious, but it's still now it's concealed. And look what it says. No, I skipped. Yeah, skip 1 second. Sorry. No, I didn't skip. Compared to Chochmah Vatzilis in the form of Makif. But remember, level 1 is also not Chochmah Vatzilis. It's Ratzon Goli that speaks to Chochmah Vatzilis. It's a Ratzon that communicates with Tam. I'm just being very precise. He's talking about a Ratzon that communicates and is manifest in a reason. Because it's still Keser, the lower level of Keser. Tarach. The 620. Now he's talking about the Chochmah Sheba, that relative to Chochmah Atzilus, it's Makif. Now he says, V'ayim Mashakos B'abir L'dad Eishri L'gefen. Look at the explanation of that Maimer, Eishri L'gefen. B'inyan Makifei Hareish or Makifei Haguf, that there are things like the garments, like a Makifei Hareish, things that surround the head, and the things that surround the body. Gimel Rashenis V'zayin Tachtenis. So there's two levels. There's Gimel Rashenis, is Chabad, Chochmah Bina Das.
Sandalim and everything that.
Sandalim that surrounds the body, the lower level.
I don't know if he's talking Levushim here. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. And then there's things that cover the Zayin Tachtenis. This is a Chesed through Malchus. So Chochmah through the Chabad. Gimel Rishenish is usually Keser Chochmah Bin or Chochmah Bin Das, and Zayin Tachtenis are always Chesed Gvura Tiferes Netzach Yesod Malchus. So he says there's two types of Makifim. V'sham the Kolos Kulim Materes, and there all of them are on the level of Ateres. Remember he's speaking about Keser as Atar. Yeshleim Ezein HaMakif Anal. We could say this is the Makif here. In other words, all three levels are in Makifim now. They're all in Keser. That's why he's bringing these parentheses. It's just a question of which level of Keser. So he's saying that there's Makif HaReish, Makif HaGuf. He's saying this second level of a crown, that's the Tamakomas, that's a hidden reason, but it's still Makif of the world. They all refer to this level.
What's the reason that he's using Ataras here? Keser Atara. What is the distinction between Keser and Atara there?
That's the three levels of Keser.
No, because without right. No, but
there has to be a difference because the Rabbi uses.
No, but I'll tell you why. Because Keser is shtika. Because Keser has other meanings that are not crown. That's the whole point. He's talking about the Keser as a crown.
How come early Rafi Lazar he said V'inyan Bechinas Keser v'Atara, meaning that these.
We answer you three different ways, all of us. Are you listening?
Yeah, I'm listening.
There are three meanings in Keser. So Keser could not be an Atara. Keser could be silence. Keser could be a pillar. So he's saying Keser v'Atara, meaning Keser from the word crown. Keser as it means a crown.
And Atara is from
as it means Atara, not Keser v'Shtika.
Atara means survival.
As Keser surrounds the head.
Yeah, that's what's bothering me.
But that's what I'm saying.
It's like Keser the Amudek.
Right. You could say it. It's okay.
Yeah. Then comes the third level. V'in katarli zair. Katarli zair from bechinas shtika is the level of silence. Zeh bechinas keser shebekesa. This is the crown within the crown, or the keser of the keser shebekesa. Bechinas harotzen hanelam legamri. The zair that's completely concealed. Shezein shtikal shalamaylam bechinas gili. That's silence. Silence is nothing. You don't hear anything. It's not that there's a secret that you don't know. There's complete silence. So there's not even there's no vibration at all. It's a silent parchment. Right. And even though all three levels are makiv tishtalshlus, it's all keser. Nevertheless, this third level is the etzem pshittas harotzen. This is like the purest form that has no shape, shapeless, and doesn't have any type of expression at all, and beyond reason and so on.
Now we're saying Keser for Sheva. Keser
on page Chav
is a shticker of Ratzon. But now
Page Chav Zayin? Yeah.
We're using shticker in two different ways. We're using Keser Sheva
It doesn't say that it's not topic.
Doesn't say. So then the shticker is not really part of Ratzon.
Yeah, this is the famous.
He said that this is etzem.
Right here, this is
okay. So
But this shtick is actually not the same shtick. This is not the third level.
So we use
Yeah.
shticker to
Because this shtick is arich. This is what he said. Tam Komas. I know this is Tam Komas. It's not the same shtick. This shtick is higher.
Shtick is even higher.
This shtick is higher. This is lower.
But he's building on this. He's talking about this.
No, but it's not because
here it says
Okay, there you go. That's shticker. That's complete shticker. That's real shticker.
two different ways. Please.
Okay, so let me just sum this up. 1 second. You'll ask me in a second. That's the chapter where he talks about that the proof that there's spheres in Ayin. Is that the chapter after? Is that the chapter after Shammai and Hillel?
No, it's way before that. It's Yud Zayin.
Look at the page. Look at the chapter before Yud Zayin. Tez Zayin is the chapter on Shammai and Hillel?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe not. Okay, fine.
No, I think it's later.
I think it's earlier actually. But okay.
I defer to you.
Everyone got it?
This sticker here is Atik.
Yes.
Ashtus Atzatik, yeah.
That one was
earlier.
Yeah. I know. I'm quite familiar with that.
He calls it Ratzon Anelam Keser Sheva Keser here.
Ratzon Elam Legamri. But before he also used Ratzon Elam on the second level. He also called Ratzon Elam. This is not some number. Remember, we keep talking Legamri or Mamish. There's relative Nelam, there's relative concealment, and there's actual concealment. He also called Ratzon Nelam. There's Nelam Lagamri.
It's relative shtikra.
No, this is not relative. This is fundamental. This is core. It's ridiculous. Okay. Let me just let's finish the Maimer already. Don't try to be mathematical. That's not going to work. So listen, I'll just sum it up in my own words. The summation goes like this. The bottom line is what he didn't finish here. He didn't say what's Primis Atzmus HaKeser. He said all these are not Primis Atzmus HaKeser, right? That's the Omni Mishal. Kol Yom Kol B'chins Eres HaKamim B'Shom B'chins Makif. Okay. Well, I think, to sum up the whole flow here, he spoke about three meanings in spheres. That's where it all began. He began with a question: how could you say there's spheres in Blikvul, in Makifim? And he answered, you could say it because you're not speaking about sphere as in defined spheres. You're talking here spheres from the word behirus, as illumination, as brightness. But then he went further and said not just brightness, but also the 10 spheres are in some way manifesting. So he said it's not the 10 spheres, it's the way it communicates to the 10 spheres, how it relates to the 10 spheres. And that's where he spoke the 3 levels. This is how it actually communicates to the 10 spheres in a very direct way. That's Rotz and Goli. That's the lower level of Keser. This is how it relates to the 10 spheres, but in a form of Makif. It surrounds it. That is Keser HaTorah. So it's more of an equalizer, but there's still, as time comes, the spheres are there, but they're in an unconscious state. And then there's how it's completely beyond all that, beyond any revelation at all, silence. But even silence also has a relationship with these spheres. It's just completely beyond. And he says clearly, this is even shtika. He says, "Ein ze b'chinas atzmus hakeser mamish, hayin b'chinas primis hakeser, because ki'im b'chinas haratzon." So everything is here still in the level of ratzon, except there's a ratzon before the ratzon, basically. So there's a revealed dimension of my desire, there's a hidden dimension that I'm aware of, and then there's a dimension I'm not even aware of, but it's still there. And then, of course, the real Blikvul would therefore be beyond even all that. I didn't even discuss that. So it appears to me that initially we were saying these 3 is what Atik, Arich, and how Arich relates to the Pnimis. Those are the 3. It could be, and I'm not sure, it could be when he says Hoid before Etzemayer, he may mean even higher than silence. But I'm not positive, because Rotzen maybe is Arich. And maybe what he did here was 3 levels in Arich, not 3 levels. That's possible. I have to review it again, but it's possible. So in other words, Atik would still be retained in the domain of Hoid, which is Etzemayer, that's beyond all spheres, beyond spheres altogether. The real Blikvul Amitli.
Is that Keser Sheba Keser? Or?
No, Keser Sheba Keser here appears to be a lower level. So I'm not positive. That I have to look it up. I have to look and check it out a little more in detail. But either way, there are 3 levels here. That's for sure.
Why you have to say that it appears to be a lower level before the Keser?
Usually with Ratzon.
Why can't
because he qualified by saying, that it's all in Ratzon. And I think there's no Ratzon.
Huh? At the end, is also saying.
And that's right.
It's a rotzen.
That's it.
So
But
it's not.
only rotzen. It's not. He says it's not pnimius hakeser mamish. He says ein zeh b'chinas atzmus hakeser mamish. Correct. Even the highest level is still in rotzen. It's still in desire.
So what is Keser Shebekesel?
In this case, it's in keser in rotzen itself. It's not chochma alama. It's not chochma gluya. It's keser shebekesel.
Yes, the atzmus.
He says the etzem harotzen. In that case, then all the desire for existence, it's still there. Etzem ha'ed is even higher than desire, even higher than rotzen. Kedem ales harotzen, or kedem ales harotzen. 1 second. It's possible. I'm leaning toward that, but I'm not positive. Because he would have qualified it. He added the 4th level, basically. That's what it means. And Chayid would be beyond. I mean, I'll tell you the truth. In Atik, but Atik itself, remember, there's 2 levels in Atik. There's 2 levels in Atik itself. There's Atik as Chechenis Atik, Primius Atik too. So the plot thickens. But I have to go back to when he spoke before about Spheres. If you remember about Lovan, he said that this Primius Chachma is Primius Abba is Primius Atik. He said that Chachma manifests Keser within it, and I think there's a level of Keser beyond.
Yeah.
So
then you said you didn't know whether love.
Yeah, but I think I'm almost positive that there's probably you probably could interpret it both ways. Just not positive which way. But fine, I just wanted to qualify it. It doesn't change from the mental pshat. Just a question whether this 3rd level is atik or it's still arich, the highest level of arich. I mean, they're both legitimate because there's still always levels, more levels.
Right.
But basically, then what we'd be saying is that essentially, right before the 10 hidden spheres, and before the Tzimtzum, there's 3 levels. There's how the Bligvul envisions the 10 spheres. That's the Keser, the Tarach, the 620. So you already have details. By the way, it's details. Then you have a level before that where it's infinite spheres, the infinite spheres ain't ketz, but it still senses the spheres. That's why it's like Chachman Nalama. Then there's Keser B'Keser, which basically only revealing Eir HaBligvul. But it's Eir HaBligvul that's going to speak to the next levels. It comes down to, at the end of the day, the more levels the better, frankly, because we need more. The more rungs on the ladder, the better it is for us.
Every level's another.
So you don't have to jump.
Every level's another interface.
Go around that way. Okay, so anyway, let me finish the mimer. According to what we learned before, we'll understand what it says. Yosef could not control himself when he met his brothers. When his brothers finally revealed, and then in Pashri, because Dihine Isra Priyetz Chaim beKavonas Vayaver. Now it says in Priyetz Chaim in the Kavona Vayaver Tachnon. She'emin Machar Sim Shalom. That which we say after Shemoneh Esrei, after we finish Sim Shalom, we say Vayaver. Shezein, what's the Kavona there? He says Shezein B'Kiyas HaYesod. The Birchas, that's the Ayin of B'Kiyas HaYesod. That's the piercing of Yesod. Yesod pierces through. The Bichas Sim Shalom, who be Yesod. The Bichas Sim Shalom that we say at the end of Shemoneh Esrei is the level of Yesod. Yesod is the level right before Malchus. But because you're coming now at the end of Shemoneh Esrei, so because of the intensity of the energy and the revelation, Nifka Yesod, the foundation, Nifka literally pierces through like it's like an earthquake. Right. And that's why you say Vayaver Hashem Kel. Why do you say? And that's the revelation of Yigim L'Tzarachim. So in other words, after Sim Shalom, when you're finishing Shemoneh Esrei, you're coming to this crescendo. There's basically it pierces through, and that's the Gili of revelation of the 13 attributes of compassion. Vayaver. He says that's the Kavon and Priyetz Chaim. Basically, he's going to say that's what happened to Yosef. He's Yesod, he couldn't control himself, means he pierced through. Konei de b'kavonas Keil Elyon, Kein HaHakel, like we know from the Kavanah when we say Keil Elyon, Kein HaHakel. God above Kein HaHakel owns or acquires everything. The Kein HaHakel b'chinas Yesod. Koil, by the way, is always Yesod. Kol, the word Koil. The Kein HaHakel means what it means. He acquires all. It means the level of Yesod. Uma shekel alien kaina who gili b'chinas atzmus ein asov b'Yesod. We say keil alien, God above alien. What did I say?
Yeah.
That he's kind of means that the Gili is the revelation of the core infinite energy in Yesod, through which becomes the Bekiya, the piercing of, the penetration and piercing of Yesod. And this is the meaning that Yesod could no longer hold himself in, control himself, contain himself, right? That when Yesod radiates the infinite light in a form of bligvul, without limits, it cannot contain itself. Yesod gets pierced through. So think of it like a container that is sealed, but when you suddenly have a surge of an infinite divine light, it pierces through and it radiates. It pierces through and it cracks through. Vayikra hitziu kol ish malai. And Jesus said, called out that everyone should leave. Every man should leave from here, from me, from my presence. Al derech v'chalal dem lo yeh be'el meid. Like the Zohar says, that because Al derech by Yom Kippur, we say that when the Kohen Gadol goes in to the Holy of Holies, no one should be there. No person should be there.
Except his family, yeah.
No, we're talking there, but by Yom Kippur, nobody. You're talking about Yosef.
Yeah, right.
Fine, but I'm talking about the pasuk is the Kol Layir. That's what he's saying, that no person should be there. What does it mean? Why not? Why can't anyone be in El Mayed Yom Kippur? Because you're dealing with revelations beyond structure, beyond individual. People being there, in a sense, contradicts the whole type of revelation. It's a bleak vuldic revelation. So that's what's higher than entire cosmic order. The whole cosmic order of the immanent energy, also the root of the immanent energy, with the 10 hidden spheres. And this is the meaning that when Yosef revealed himself to his brothers,
His family was there.
His family.
yeah, this means the Gili is to Neshamis Yisrael Levad, like Shmini Atzeres. The revelation was only to the souls of Israel. Because the revelation is the core of Keser, the core of desire, Ratzon. Because in general, from the perspective of a Makiv generally is an equalizer. Darkness is like light. Which is why it says that from a Makiv Klippa could gather, because it's like the Shema Meshidayim Tata. When the king is in his palace, the spiders and others gather because he's beyond that. He's beyond above it. Everything is there equal. So he said that's from Chetzenis HaKes Makiv. That's the outer Makiv. So there's a level where you say Ach Esav Liyankiv, that they're brothers and they're equals. But then there's a level where Pnimis HaMakiv, their intention is Yidavkis, the souls of Israel, Ulahemu Davka Amshacha, and specific to them is Amshacha. That's why you say during the 7 days of Sukkot we bring Shivim Parim. We bring 70 offerings corresponding to the 70 nations, and only to you is where the king says, like the example Rashi brings from Medrash, that the king says, I want to be now with my daughter alone, because this is going to be the last day. And then it's Par Echad, Ayel Echad, that's one offering, so it's a private, intimate experience. That's Pnimis HaMakiv.
Know what the Yidden did in the Beis Hamikdash.
They would protect
You
it.
can have a Yosef.
Right. And that's what means v'lo yomad, that no one stood there. Al derech hu v'lo acher. What means v'lo yomad? No one was there. It's like hu. You only had him and no one else. Very powerful statement. And this is what it says in Zohar. This is what it says. On this 8th day, it should be a gathering to you alone. Okay, exactly what I said. It says on this Medrash Rabbah, the Ein L'Zarim Itach, the Yilecha should be to you alone. The Ein L'Zarim, and no strangers with you. V'zeh lachem, Dafka lachem. What means that? Tzeres Tia lachem. Every Yom Tov is lachem to you, specific to you. Bov v'negalgal aniva ata. May you and I let us celebrate. Let us hang out together. Let us spend time together. Galgal to hang around. The galgal means to drain sich. It means to stroll. Let's stroll together. Galgalim is like wheels. Let's take a drive. Let's take a cruise. Aniva ata. I and you. This means that Yosef could not contain himself. Because there was the revelation of Ein Sof Bligvul, the core of the makif. But again, I think he means Atzmus HaMakif, the third level. And he called them leave, or go out, or be taken out. It's higher than the Seder Shtalshus. It's Keser. And no man stood with him when he revealed himself, when he confessed. It's literally, but when he revealed himself, when he communed with his brothers. Because the revelation is only to neshamas. Only you alone and not any strangers. So what's he saying here? How is this relevant to the Maimer? Because he's saying is the Gili of Keser. The Gili of Keser, if Yosef was an Atzilus regular and Atzilus was not exposed to the Keser, so then he could control himself. But then when there's a surge from a level, from the Makif, from Bligvul, a power surge. Exactly. You got it. A power surge and overwhelms the boundaries, so it pierces through Yesod, which is Yosef, and there's a revelation that is beyond, and he just can't contain it, it just comes flowing out. It doesn't spell exactly out, but it sounds to me like he's taking that from Bligvul comes into Gvul, and that becomes a channel. That's similar to what Yaakov did when he lifted up the pillar. So he's taking a malchus on its own, is in a so-called subdued state, and gets it going, excites it, raises it up.
So Yisayid is a connector. It's a it connects.
Yeah. It's intimacy also. You saw the Malchus is intimacy. It's a state of intimacy. Only you and I.
Oh,
that's Yehuda.
Okay. Yehuda is one that elicited it. Yeah, he elicited it. Yehuda, Malchus brought Keser Malchus, and he got Yosef out of his composure.
Wow. Good one.
He got him decomposed.
Our search from Keser went through the
Malchus got
Yehuda aroused.
through the side into
Aroused.
And Yosef, The question is, what will rouse us? Okay, Keser. Summary. And all above will understand the three meanings in Keser. Sivav Atzilus B'teichei. The Sivav Atzilus B'teichei, that it surrounds Atzilus within it. This is very specific. Is the root of the immanent energies as they're rooted in the infinite light. That's how God envisions and allocates and estimates the 10 spheres. Atara, the second level, B'chinas Erein Sof Shabbat B'chinas Makif. That's the Erein Sof, that's in the form of Makif and surrounds. It's not that it's not the Shosheh Eris, it's above the 10 hidden spheres. V'shtika, and the silence Shalamayla B'chinas Makif is even higher than that type of Makif. But that also, and in detail, in the infinite light, you can say the first is the revealed desire that reveals itself in Atzilus. Those are the 620 pillars. Then there's the hidden desire that's manifest in the hidden wisdom, unconscious when that's in the form of makif and surrounded and hidden from, concealed from the wisdom of Atzilus. So that's like the Ratzon of Mitzvah says it's beyond any reason altogether. There, this first level is the Ratzon is already connected to a reason. You could relate to it with a reason, even though that's not the core reason, but it relates. The Etzem Pshittas HaRatzon.
No, B'chinas Makif we missed. B'chinas Makif. And then there's the third level, is Etzem Pshittas HaRatzon, is the pure core shapeless desire. According to that, above that we'll learn understand what means Yosef could not contain himself. Through the revelation of the infinite light, it pierces the Yesod. And no man stood with him means the revelation is only to the souls of Israel. Okay, so we conclude chapter 126. We did page 243 and 244. 1 minute. And
This finishes the first section. The next Maimer will be Vasisa Chag Shavuos, Tofrei Shayin Gimel. And we have a summary of the whole picture. Plenty more to analyze, obviously. But clearly, we have here some interface between Bli Gvul and Gvul. That's the bottom line.
This last.
And Keser is like that in between place, that in middle place. Keser relates to the imminent energies. There's the three levels how it relates. The best thing now would do is translate this into Avodah. You know, how can we apply this?
Yeah, that's the bottom line.
That's the bottom line. Then you can really get it.
Now we're talking.
So how would I apply it?
You'll find it now.
Well, that's it. You got the test of theoretical physics is always the
Of course.
empirical observations, the empirical difference.
I mean, psychologically, it's very clear, in my mind at least, that you're talking here psychology. You're talking about a person's, conscious behavior, which is informed by a certain, let's call it, control, the control room, your conscious control room, which is the regular way we process things. You see something you're attracted to, you go to it. You see something, because we're talking the control room here. We're talking Keser, Rotzen. We're not just talking behavior here. We're talking about what controls daily conscious behavior. So there's a control room. That would be called Rotzen Hagoli. That's the captain of the ship, for good or for bad. However your ship is running. Some ships are going the right way, some are not going the right way, some are deeply submerged in the mud, right? Others are free at sea and have no anchor and no rudder, rather. So we got ships all over the place, and we have a captain. Captain could be drunk, captain could be sober. But bottom line is, no, that would be Keser as it's at the steering wheel of your conscious life. That is the lowest level. That is pretty clear. Obviously, I'm talking about this is the pure levels here. This is tzaddikim, Atzilus. But let's speak for us. That's that. Then there's what's going on in the engine room behind the engine room. Behind that's the captain at the wheel, who may or not. Then there's the forces behind the scenes. So there you're talking already now. We're talking now in the sub and unconscious of the person. Chachmas Tima, right? There you're talking now forces that shaped us as children, forces that shaped us, traumatic experiences, anything that somewhat altered or somewhat shaped us without us even knowing about it. Forces that shape us. Like, why does one person get angry at a certain situation that another person is oblivious? If two people are insulted, one person will go crazy, the other person won't. Things that are clearly can be identified, symptoms that can be identified, but you're looking for the causes. Now, the causes can be a trauma, the causes can be a divorce, the causes can be abuse, the causes can be just parents that just had attitudes that we picked up. We don't even remember, just how we deal with things. And you find, sometimes I remember talking to somebody, I say, I asked him, why when your wife does something you don't really like, why do you have to always have an outburst? And then he for the first time he ever said it, he said, to him it was like, that's how you react. I said, how do you know? He said, that's what my parents did. I assumed as much, but I wanted him to be aware of it, to make the connection. So I said, so in other words, your parents had that outburst. That doesn't mean that's the way, that's what you saw. But there's another way to deal with it. Now, and I'm talking simply, but bottom line is his routine became that. So it's not just easy to say there's another way, but the first step in any type of healing is knowing there's an alternative. You don't have to deal with it that. There's other ways to solve a problem. So a lot of ways we solve problems are based on, I don't want to use it Chachmas Tima, it's based on a distorted Chachmas Tima, basically. In other words, there's some concealed forces in the engine room that are causing this captain to turn the wheel like this or like that. That would be the second level. I'm just spelling it out as it comes to me naturally from as I see this flow. And the third level has to be genetic engineering, I have to say.
Genetic engineering? Oh my gosh.
Genetics.
No. I didn't mean that. I'm not talking about intervention right now. I'm just talking where it comes from. I meant genetics. That's what I mean. It has to be genetic and hereditary.
Nature.
DNA.
Yeah.
Nurture.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
DNA.
Yeah. I think that's what it would be. DNA. It's the way
DNA level.
At the DNA level, right? At the cellular level, and that would be atzmi because it's not concealed reason. It's how the thing is wired, how you're wired. It's how you're wired.
Wow.
That would be my three steps.
That's higher than shtika. That's shtika?
That's shtika.
And the
but fundamental shtika.
Chachmas Tima
Chachmas Tima is the second, is the hidden causes. Shtika. The reason I would call it shtika is because it's not because it's never been said, not because it's unspoken. It's because it's. 1 second. But this I think could be really turned into a model because. But the good news is this third level is the third level is usually untouched by abuse.
Well, we can touch it now. That's what
No, for sure. The whole point of learning this is you can touch.
This last one is genetic. We now have gene therapy. We never had that before.
Yes.
We've had it in the last 10 years.
And wherever's in the secular world, we can get in.
Okay, hold on. But one second.
Genetic therapy.
Hold on.
Enter the age of gene therapy.
1 second. I want to just say something. Hold on. So I was thinking, what caused Yosef to explode or to not contain himself? Which level of Keser? He doesn't really say. He just says Erein Sof surged into Pnimi. Which level? Now I would like to hear that it was the third level, the highest level. That means there's something that can touch us, even in the shtika level.
Right.
So obviously the behavioral level, we know that part. No, I would even say it like this. I would even say, I'll go even further. I'll say it like this. Behavioral therapy is the lowest level of Keser. You go to the captain and say, you know what? Instead of every time turning to the right, turn to the left. So behavioral therapy is Ratzon Goli. You're basically telling Keser that controls your daily faculties to behave a little differently.
Right.
And habits ultimately become routines, and some behavioral therapy can change it. Like, say thank you. You don't say thank you, say thank you. You don't have to go into the Ratzon Melon for that. The second level will be, I would say, a more therapeutic.
Psychoanalysis?
No, I don't have.
Getting to the causes. The second
For me,
getting to the causes.
I'm not talking. I'm talking about pre-Freud. This is pre-Freud.
No, but you said behavioral therapy.
I'm just using words that are relevant. Behavioral meaning ma'aseh b'poel. Change your actions. The second is change your kavanas. Work your attitudes, which you have to go therefore deeper into your.
You're unconscious. The second level is the unconscious.
Yeah. Unconscious, or change the causes, or for example, work out, talk through your trauma, or talk through what caused you to develop an anger streak or whatever it may be. And the third level, I would have to say, is ultimately what we talk about Yom Kippur, where you touch the etzem and neshama, like a type of something that touches the core. Either you're challenged in a very deep way, Mesiras Nefesh, or maybe very serious forms of pain and suffering that causes.
That if you hit it.
Yeah, that would be the third, which is more. I would reserve that for unique situations. I wouldn't go there every day.
It could only come up.
Actually, think about Shemini Atzeres is very much the revelation of Yom Kippur. That's why there's no one there. So you're talking about Etzem and Neshama then.
Right.
It only happens once a year. You don't have Lo Yachal Yosef shouldn't be happening every day. If it's happening every day, that's not good.
Then you have sure as a kid.
So you have so I would say the first. It's like what we say. 5 tefillas is only Yom Kippur. 4 tefillas is Shabbos and Yontif, which goes to Yechaya, the second level. That's good. And all day, every day you do the 3 levels, you deal with the behavioral. Yeah. That's good. That's excellent. So every day we have 3 levels, you deal with Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, and the Keser, essentially, of the Keichus Geluyim. Keser of...
structure. Every day you deal with the structure.
And how Keser runs that structure. Right. On Shabbos Yom Kippur, you're adding the 4th Arich, which is what you said, Chaya. It's already Makif, but it's Shabbos, it's a little more unconscious. And then Yom Kippur is
stimulated by Rosh Hashanah, which is Malchus.
Pretty good.
Which is Malchus.
I like it.
Malchus, Yehuda. Malchus and Yehuda is stimulated by Rosh Hashanah, which.
Yeah, very good.
Okay. What was that last point you said, Tzvi?
Good. We'll stop here. Chapter 126. We did page 243 and 244.
Binyan Malchus. That's the whole thing of Binyan Malchus.
But how many Tvarim?